Wake up, the footy's back! Did you hear that? It's back! Let's go! Wake up, the footy's back! Did you hear that? It's back! Let's go!
I don't know what happened with the intro then, but welcome to Tuesday Night Live, brought to you by Crowcast, of course. And as usual, it wouldn't be the same if we didn't have a little glitch here and there, but it's going to be a massive night. Apologies to everyone. For Sunday night, I wasn't feeling terribly well, so we had to give it a miss. But to make up for it, we've got a huge show for you tonight. Of course, we're going to review all the AFL matches. We're going to deep dive into the Crows game versus Richmond, full of flame, of course, and a preview of next week's game against North, which should be a beauty. Don't forget, Tuesday Night Live is brought to you by Next Body Corporate Services, Adelaide's newest and best strata and community title management company. One flat fee, no insurance commissions, prompt personal service. Go to nextbcs.com.au, and if you own a strata or community title property, you won't be out of negative gear anymore, but you will be able to get some fantastic service from Next Body Corporate Services. Now, of course, we have our wonderful cohort tonight with us. Macca, how are you, sir?
Well, as I said, we had visited all bloody day, but I've got a bit worn down, but I'm trying to recover, mate, and we'll do our best.
Well, that's all we can do, and a special guest tonight. Because he's feeling a little bit left out. Bigman, how are you, sir?
I'm good, mate. You made me sound pathetic there, but I'm glad to be on anyway.
Maybe you are, maybe you're not. I don't know.
Nah, look, I thought the pod could use some more life, mate, so I thought I'd help out. No, I'm joking. It's good to be on, mate. No, I appreciate you guys, especially the Fall of Flame, mate. Looking forward to what you got tonight.
Well, you're going to have to bring something at late notice, mate. So
I'll have plenty to work with, mate.
Beautiful. All right, so as I mentioned in the intro, gentlemen, we've got lots to talk about. And of course, our studio is live and interactive. So if you're on Discord and you're in the studio audience, don't forget, you can put your hand up and we would love to have you on board and hear your thoughts. We've had a little bit of contributions going on lately. Arab's been on, but it would be great to hear from some others as well. All right, Macca, why don't we just click straight into the weekend's results and get them out of the way, because we've got a big show tonight and we don't want to keep the punters waiting when we talk about the Crows, because we haven't talked about the Crows yet this weekend. So, match 1, Fremantle versus Hawthorn. Fremantle getting up 12-16-88 to 11-7-73. We had Freo, Michael Frederick had 3 goals, Jai Amos with 3 and Josh Tracy with 2. For the Hawks, we had Gunston with, how many do you have? 6? Watson with 3 and Mitch Lewis with 1. Disposals, Fremantle, Sarong had 28, Brayshaw 24 and Bolton 22. For the Hawks, Amon had 31, Newcombe had 28 and Battle had 24. What did you think, Mac?
Well, it's a pretty high-quality game, mate, between two very good sides. These are final sides,
yes,
these two. And it started off pretty evenly. Hawks got in top of the second quarter. And Gunston had 5 goals up by half-time. Grandpa just keeps getting better and better with age, that man. He
certainly does.
Playing really well. Yep. They maintained their lead until 3/4 time, and then Freo got into action and they came home strongly. Sarong and Jackson, they were outstanding for the Dockers, and Gunston, well, I mentioned him before, and Watson, he's a little ripper for the Hawks.
Now, Nathan in YouTube chat, thank you very much for your support, mate. But he's running out of money, big man, and he says Macca and Bigman combo not much better. By the way, how much more money am I going to have to chuck in for a face reveal? I'm almost broke. Big man, do you have a response?
You might have to get a loan, mate, because it's. I told you if we win, make a grand final, mate. So
If we
otherwise
make
you
a
might have to
grand
cough up.
final,
Yeah. So.
But
Mostly it's not happening unless we'll see. We'll see.
but a word of warning, once you revealed it, mate, they might want you to cover up again.
You're probably right, mate. You're probably right.
All right,
Just
next
stay
game.
anonymous, mate.
Next game, Brisbane 14-16, 100 defeated Vossi's last game at Carlton 13-11-89. I didn't think Carlton actually played too badly, to be honest with you. Pardon me, for Brisbane, Lockie Neal had 33, McCluggage had 25, Bruce Revel had 24, and for Carlton, Cripps had 32, Walsh 29, and Jagger Smith 25. Handy. Goal scorers, Logan Morris had 4 for the Lions, Ashcroft with 2, and Lohman with 2. For Carlton, we had Hayward with 3, McKay with 3, and Mitch McGovern with 3. Macca.
Bit of a reverse Carlton game, actually. Normally they go well early and then collapse, but this particular game, Brisbane got on top early with their midfield, and they've got a very classy midfield, as we know. And they had a 38-point lead at halftime, and looked just like how far was it going to be. And at the second half, that was a good effort by Carlton. They actually got back into a situation where they could have possibly won it, but the line steadied just at the last few minutes, and and Carlton were denied the win by, I think it was about 8 points, and possibly one of their best performances for the year, although they lost. And yet Vossi got the chop on this one. Many others I thought I would have chosen before this, but yeah, it's the overall thing that counts, I know. But for the Lions, the usual suspects, Lockie Neal was great, McCluggage was good. And for the Blues, Cripps finally played a good one, and young Smith and Hayward, they played quite well as well.
Yeah. Too big a gap between the top 10 and the bottom 10 in that 23, I reckon, Macca.
Yeah, no doubt about that, mate.
We'll talk about the Carlton situation later on in a little bit more depth. The next game was a cracker. Port, unfortunately, just falling short. The Bulldogs 10-14-74, Port 10-12-72. For the Bulldogs, we had Sanders with 31, Bontempelli with 30, Richards with 27. For the Power, we had Butters with 30, Farrell with 27, and Logan Evans with 22. Goal scorers, the Bulldogs, Norton with 2, Lewis with 2, and West with 2. For Port, Georgiades kicked 4, should have kicked more. Logan Evans with 1, and McKinley with 1, Macca.
Yeah, I thought, as the game first started, the first half, I thought that the Dogs are much better than Port in that first half. Well, it was only a 3-goal margin at half time. Port got a couple of dodgy frees and got goals just before half time and made it. It could have been 5, but it went back to 3. But in the second half, I thought Port genuinely played very well. Butters was playing his heart out. And you'd love to have a Butters on our side. Just love the way that guy plays. And Alia, he was shining in defence. And they actually got into a situation where they got within, I think they got level actually, with just a few minutes to play. But then the Dogs got a couple of points and got over the line. But there's no doubt Port have improved quite a lot.
Yeah, playing to their maximum at the moment, I reckon, Port. But only take a couple of injuries and they'll fall off, I think. But a lot of good markers in their stats to say that they're going okay. All right, the next one wasn't bad either. North v Sydney, and Sydney getting up 16-9-105 to North 14-13-97. North had their chances. For Sydney, Blakey had 26, Heaney had 24, Lloyd 22. For North, LDU had 34, Sheasel had 31, and Parker had 29. Goal scorers, Heaney 3, McLean 3, and Logan McDonald 3. And for North, Dersma 2, Darling 2, and Sheasel 1. Larkey notably not there, and perhaps the difference, mate.
Yeah, it was a very improved North Melbourne. They really pushed leader Sydney all the way. But in the end, it was the class of Sydney that prevailed. Uh, the points and
Oh, hang on a minute. We got one of these Discord situations again. Just give me a minute and I will sort that out. All right, how's that?
yeah, that's good.
Sorry, there seems to be a regular occurrence with Discord these days.
Right, carry on.
Yeah.
Right, well, no, I thought that you mentioned it, LDU. He was terrific. Caesar was good, and Wardlaw gave them a pretty good midfielder, which matched Sydney pretty well. But Sydney get a hell of a lot of drive from the back lines, and Blakey in particular, his rebound from the defence was outstanding. He played up to his standard. And they're just slightly better forward line, and which enabled the Swans to get there. But we're playing. I think we're playing North next week, aren't we? They're going to be a dangerous
certainly
side.
are. It certainly
No, they
will
played
be a
very
danger
well.
game, Macca, and we will cover that in depth later on. All right, the next one, GWS, a hard-fought win over a very gallant Essendon. I thought the Bombers played all right. GWS 16-7-103 to Essendon 13-11-89. Disposals for the Giants, Whitfield 35, Finn Callaghan 30 and Clayton Oliver 26. For the Bombers we had Archie Roberts with 42 if you don't mind, Zach Merritt with 31, Sam Durham with 26. Goal scorers, Toby Green had 3 along with Stringer, and Daniels had 2. For Essendon, Wright had 3, May had 3 and Caddy had 2.
Yeah, I thought GWS, they managed to hold Essendon off for, well, I would say was an unimpressive win, but a much needed win. Because Essendon really dominated the inside 50s, 61 to 46, which generally would get you home, but they didn't capitalise on that advantage. But as you mentioned, that they were pretty good in defence as well. But Ash was moved into the middle from defence for the GWS, and he gave them plenty of drive. They also had Whitfield in there as well at times, and the strength of their midfield probably got them home. You mentioned Roberts; he was outstanding in the back lines. And Merritt, he was pretty good, and Wright did quite well for the Dons as well.
Yeah, GWS just going, I reckon, Macca.
Only just going, mate. Only just going.
Next one, Gold Coast got over the top of St Kilda in the end after St Kilda started pretty well. Gold Coast 13-11-89 to St Kilda 8-12-60. When's Ross Lyon going to be under pressure? For the Suns, Took Miller had 31, Noah Anderson had 31, and John Noble had 31. For St Kilda, Flanders had 28, Garcia 27, Brad Hill 25. Ben King kicked 4, Took Miller 1, and Noble 1 for the Suns. For St Kilda, Darcy Wilson had 3, Future Crows player, Jack Sinclair 1, and Max Hall 1.
I hope you're right about the Darcy Wilson Future Crows player. I really love the way that guy. He played beautifully. No Wanganeen Miller. It was they named him for the game. He didn't play, and then on top of that, I think I heard this evening he's going to be out for 3 games, up to 3 games. So I mean, very strange move to name him in the first place. They really could have done with him too. They jumped the Suns early, and in quarter time they had a lead of 25 points, but that's the end of the party really for the Saints. Anderson and Miller got on top in the midfield. And on top of that, the Saints lost Wilkie from the back lines, and that didn't help many at all because he's their star down back. You mentioned Wilson. I actually got him mentioned he as a rising star for the Saints, and he played well, as did Flanders and Brad Hill for the Saints. But yeah, under the human slippery conditions, they couldn't match Gold Coast. They were too strong.
Sun's still undefeated up there too.
Yep.
All right. Now, the next game was very interesting, Macca, because it was one part the demise of Collingwood and one part the return of Geelong with a new game plan. And it was pretty impressive. 18-14, 122 to Collingwood, 9-14, 68. For the Cats, Bailey Smith had lazy 40, Max Holmes 33, Humphreys 26. For Collingwood, De Goey had 30, Dacos 29, and Crisp 28. Goal scorers, Henry had 4, Manor had 3, Neal had 2, and for the Pies, McStay had 3, Buller 2, and Pendlebury 1. Just about the death knell for the Pies, I reckon, Macca, but Geelong looking ominous once again.
Yeah, I don't think it's just the death knell for this season for the Pies. I think the Pies are in for a big slide, mate. There's not much there. They've got a few stars and that's it. I think the main thing out of the game really was Pendlebury's record equalling match, but not much else for the Pies. Mullen tagged Dacos. Now, Dacos ended up for 29 possessions, but he only got 3 in the midfield, which is very low for him. So he had to roam, and he did. He ran wide, he ran far. He worked hard to get kicks, but he didn't have the same domination of the game that he normally has. So they don't have much else. They don't really have much else. They were in the contest until half-time, but after half-time it was 11-8 to 4-6, and they just faded away. As you mentioned, Smith and Holmes, they ran around like unregistered dogs. They got heaps of the ball. Mullen was very effective, in neutralising Dacos. But for the Pies, De Goey, Crisp and Nick Dacos, although I mentioned him, but they're a declining force. They're no good.
If I were a betting man, Macca, I would put money on Nick Dacos being Tasmania's marquee player, and he will do a Gary Ablett and go and play there for 5 years and come back when Collingwood's finished their rebuild and get a flag with them.
He is their number one target. He is their number one target. But there has been talk in the last couple of days that they may spread that $5 million over 5 players, which might sound like that Dacos has rejected them, mate. So I don't know.
I don't know, mate. I don't know. I've got a sneaking suspicion there's a bit to play out there.
It is very tempting. It would be very tempting.
Well, does Nick Dacos really want to spend his time going through a rebuild? Because you're right, their list is a bit cooked. They need forwards. Their midfield is just going. De Goey and Pendlebury are towards the end. Their defence is okay-ish, but got some holes. So I reckon they're down the bottom for a couple of years. I don't know whether Nick Dacos will tolerate that.
That will tell. Time will tell.
Richie Mad says, what would he be doing in Tassie if not building? Well, he'd be earning about 3 times as much money.
Yeah, he would be.
All right, the next one. Melbourne continuing on, albeit against West Coast, 15-9-99 to 9-13-67. For the D's, Langdon had 29, Steele 28, and Bowie 26. For West Coast, McCarthy had 30, Kelly had 25, and Murdoch 25. Goal scorers, Van Rooyen 5, Cross 3, and Max Gawn 1. Pardon me. For West Coast, Waterman 3, Harley Reid 1, and Cole 1. Bit of a nothing game by West Coast, but Melbourne just cruising along.
Yeah, the game is never in doubt. There's no doubt about that. But I thought it was an improved performance from West Coast. They actually did compete a lot better. They weren't the better side, but you can see that they really did put in a good effort. Overall, though, Melbourne still dominated. The players I actually liked for Melbourne were Steele, Sparrow, and Sparrow is another one I think that, and you don't like him, but I know they're talking that there's talk that he's talking to the Crows, so I don't know. And Pickett
talk from who, mate?
It was I saw it online today. Somebody mentioned
it's Journo's putting 2 and 2 together, and everyone knows the Crows need midfielders, so Journo's are just plucking any old thing out of the air.
Yeah. Anyhow, not much of a game. You know, you mentioned McCarthy. He played very well for West Coast, as did Reed. And, nothing game, really.
Yep, correct. And what a time slot. Wonderful time slot.
Yeah.
Almost as good as ours. All right, the ladder after 9 rounds, Mac. And we have Sydney and Fremantle away on top with 8 wins. Hawthorn, Brisbane, Geelong, Gold Coast, Melbourne on 6 wins. The Crows into the 8 with 5 wins. The Bulldogs also with 5, just outside the 8 on percentage. Collingwood with 4 wins along with St Kilda, North Melbourne, GWS. Port on 3 wins, but quite a good percentage. If they can jag a couple of wins, they'll be nudging back up to the wildcard round. West Coast with 2, Carlton, Essendon and Richmond with 1 apiece. Okay, all right. Well, let's not even waste any time, Macca. Let's just get straight into the Crows match, because for a while there, it was resembling how I was feeling. But in the end, we had a quarter. Even the last quarter was great, but we had a great third quarter and ended up 14-12-96 to 9-5-59. Disposals for Adelaide. Miller had 34, Rankin 33, Dawson 29, Richmond, Taranto 28, Jaden Short 26, and Jack Ross 26. Goal scorers, Neil Bullen had 2, Rochelle had 2, Rankin had 1, Richmond Lynch had 3, Noah Bolter had 1, and Tyler Sonsi had 1. And we'll welcome Bigman into the conversation too. But your thoughts first, Macca. What did you think?
I thought that first half was arguably the worst Crows performance for many a long year. We were playing as a team.
Probably since the last time we played Richmond. Or the year before, 2024.
They had 17 injuries to restrict their selection, and then they got an injury in the first quarter on top of that. And yet, we were just absolutely pathetic. I think the words I've got were insipid and spineless, and we looked like the bottom team in the competition in that first half. I think it was absolutely disgraceful, and for me, there's only 3 players can say they played a whole game.
Well, we'll go through players later. I'm not going
to name
an overview
the
right
rest
now.
of the rest of the team need to kick up their ass, because that was a pathetic, shocking performance in that first half. We had a very good third quarter, but as far as I'm concerned, that first half tells me Nix is not the man for the job. I mean, we've said this before. We've said it many times before. We have doubts about him. That working in a situation where we're battling to get into the 8 and we come out and play a game like that against Richmond in the first half, no, I won't buy it, mate. I won't buy it.
Well, before we throw to Big Man for his thoughts, Reggie in the YouTube chat, thank you very much, Reggie. He's dropped a super chat in, of course. If you want your comments read out on YouTube, just flick us a super chat and I'd be happy to do it. It says, can't wait to see the Big Man face reveal in September. I'll tell you what, Big Man, there's a lot of pressure on. As Matthew Nix raises the 2026 Cup in front of the G in front of 100,000, will be absolute saints. I don't think either of those things are going to happen. What were your overall thoughts of the game, Big Man? Just a high-level overview.
I was just thinking maybe I have my Iron Man moment, and it turns out I'm Matthew Nix all along, mate.
That would be funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah, look, Macca's not wrong. That first half was garbage. We rocked up like a team that thought it was going to be a pretty easy kill, and we're just not in that sort of form right now to having those thoughts. We look sluggish. Second to the contest, we gave them way too much latitude, and even though that's basically half their seconds team playing, they're still pretty well drilled under Uze, and we just let them play their own game, and they made us look silly at times, and it was pretty pathetic, to be honest. Thankfully, we regrouped and got our act together, and obviously the second half, particularly the third quarter, was much better. But it just what are we about to hit round 10, and there's still that stench of this year just being like we're I'd say we're like a sputtering engine, and that we're just going there's sometimes feels like the car's working like it should, and then all of a sudden it just, bombs out again, and we look like a very mediocre team. So, and then I think there's more bad than good at the moment, which is frustrating. So, I guess the only positive is the win-loss ledger, but that can turn around pretty quick once we start playing some tougher teams again.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I didn't actually, unlike many, I didn't actually mind them having a crack at a couple of positional changes, because throwing Dawson to half-back would have been fine if our midfield was actually working, but they decided to stay on the bus. And I think it was worth having a look at Nick Murray up forward, given a few injury concerns and whatnot. I don't think it was an experiment that needs to be continued, because I think it was fairly obvious that for all of Nick's competitiveness, he got in the way more than anything else. So I didn't mind that. It was the work rate and the lack of pressure and just no sense of urgency at the ball. It was very listless. I know there's the old showdown hangover, but we had a nice long break after the showdown. We should have been refreshed. Port Adelaide didn't suffer. So it was inexcusable, and I don't understand the mentality and the psyche of the team when they've had a tough run. They've had things going on behind the scenes at the club. Poor old Geordie Dawson and then more recently Mark Keane. Commiserations to both those families. But you would think they'd just want to come out and bloody rip the shit out of Richmond just to get it out of their system, wouldn't you? But it was horrific. I have not seen, like you said, Mac, since the 2024 Tigers game, I don't think I've seen us play that bad. And it was, we'll talk about what happened at halftime in a second, but up until halftime, it was horrendous.
It's interesting, Payne, that Dawson is the guy that's had a terrible period, a really terrible period in his life in the recent weeks. Yet he can come out there and play a champion game. And other people who have had no such thing in their life, they've had probably just playing on their, play games with their mates and a drink here and there. And, they come out and do nothing. So I just hated it. I really hated it, mate. That these players, they get paid good money. There's no reason they should come out wanting a kill. They come out there and some of them just gave a half-hearted effort. It was terrible.
No, I agree, and I will say I probably I should have mentioned the whole Keane thing. Like, no doubt that would have had an impact as well. So it is something to keep in mind when we're judging the players' mentality and energy levels in game. But I as you guys have been saying, it felt like this was an opportunity to grease the wheels a bit and get humming. And instead, it was like that first half was like an encapsulation of everything that's gone wrong with us this season in terms of our on-field stuff, which is really disappointing to see. It does leave you wondering, doesn't it? Because, I mean, I will say I never thought we were going to lose the game, even at halftime when we were 10 points down. I was never actually truly worried, but I was just disappointed because I thought, what could have been a quite an emphatic win to kickstart the year, or to re-kickstart the year, ended up just being sort of just a ho-hum effort that was saved by 30, 40 minutes of good football, and that's it.
Let's talk briefly about what happened. Macca, let's just talk briefly about what happened, or what reportedly happened at halftime. Matthew Nicks said in his press conference that the coaches didn't really need to do anything because the players had it already sorted out by the time the coaches came in. And the players knew what to do, and he said it was a lot about ground ball and and yet we saw positional changes made back to a more conventional lineup. Murray back to defence and Dawson into the middle. And Geordie obviously had a had the fire in his belly because he really fired us in the third quarter. But there's been a couple of other versions of that half-time break floating around too, Mac. One that I saw today that the conversation between the players and the coach, or some of the players and the coach, was perhaps quite spicy.
Is that right? I hadn't heard that.
Only rumours.
In terms of what, the game plan?
Well, in terms of disagreement or differing of opinions between the captain and the coach.
Interesting.
Only rumours. Second, third
Right, well,
hand
it wouldn't
information.
Well, I will say this. It wouldn't be hard to disagree with Nix. There's a million things that you and I would disagree with him about. I think that everybody who backs for the Crows would there'd be a million things they could disagree with Nix. So I would not be surprised at all. I would not be surprised one little bit.
Bigman, I was at the St Kilda game with Brownie, and I mentioned to him during that game that I just saw signs of poor body language for the first time, really, under Matthew Nix. And I just wonder whether there's maybe a little bit of a disconnect between how they're being asked to play and how they would prefer to play.
Yeah, this sort of scuttlebutt tends to come out when teams aren't performing particularly well. And I guess it's a matter of how much do we take of it being truth and how much do we take just being, stuff just thrown around for the sake of it to conjure up discussion and all that. It's really hard. I know the guy that posted this stuff has a reasonable track record, some hits, some misses. And I guess that's probably based on the source itself. It's hard to speculate wholeheartedly because we don't know just how strong these rumours are. But
that's right.
I mean, not necessarily. If it's true, it's not necessarily the worst thing. I certainly prefer it to be the senior players like Dawson, like Tex, than the kids. If it was the kids, I'd be more worried because then I'd be like, well, shit, are they going to seek greener pastures? Where if it's guys like Dawson and Tex, then these are people with serious power at the football club who may be able to instigate change. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a Nick sacking per se. Like, it could be just pressuring Nicks to obviously change things up. The season's still pretty young. But at the very least, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing if it helps, if true, because it might help, change things, which obviously things do need to change. Assuming, of course, Nicks is willing to accept the criticism.
Yep.
At the same time, I guess you never really truly want discontent at the at your footy club, because that usually never leads down the right road in terms of on-field success. Usually it ends up with a sacking or worse performances. We've seen this before under Sando and to a lesser extent Pike, and it doesn't usually end well for a lot of players and for your club and for the coach. So hard to judge. You go.
I think there's I don't have any problem with tension in the workplace. I think, teams work well together when there is a little bit of, I would call it creative tension, disagreements and differing opinions and robust discussions and all that sort of stuff. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But if there was a disagreement and Geordie's come out and said, I want to play this way, or we should be playing this way, and Matthew's gone, well, no, or what, and we don't know, we're speculating. I really want to reiterate, we are acting on second and third hand information here, so this is pure speculation. But Matthew Nix did refer to the players taking charge at halftime, so something certainly did happen. Then there's a difference between that and the coaches starting to lose trust. The players starting to lose trust in what the coaches are asking them to do.
What was the phrase you used before? The creative, what was it?
Creative tension.
Yeah, so that's not, as you said, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, this is a weird sort of anecdote, but not anecdote because it's not my personal experience, but there's a story. So for Michael Jackson fans out there, so don't stop till you get. Yeah, no, I'm going with something here. So, the song "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough." That was on Off the Wall, big hit.
Yes,
and
I remember Off the Wall. I had that vinyl.
Yeah, and Michael wrote the song, and then obviously he brought it to Quincy Jones, and Quincy Jones said, "No, I actually want to add this string section at the start. That's that iconic, string section." And Michael didn't want it, and he forced it. He demanded that it's not in, but he eventually gave in because Quincy had, other ideas, and it ended up being a key part of the song. And I just wonder whether, hopefully, a Dawson type can spark some creativity and change what we think is a bit of a stubborn attitude from Nixie this year.
Man, that's some sort of analogy.
It's going a bit of a long bow, but I mean, sometimes that creative tension leads to better results. You know what I mean?
I agree, 100%. 100% agree with you. And I don't mind it at all.
I like the story anyhow. It's a good story.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. If that is what it is, then great, fine, because that shows that everyone's engaged and everyone wants the same result. But on the other hand, as I mentioned, if the players are starting to disengage with what's being asked of them, then the coaches are going to have to think about realigning. And there's been a couple of interviews. Zach Taylor, your boy, Bigman, on 5AA last night, made some really slight, small allusions to perhaps they're slowly having to adapt to the modern or 2026 AFL. James Peatling's had a couple of things whispering. Even Rory Laird came out during the week and said stuff that was, you could argue, was a little bit anti-coach, or not anti-coach, anti-game style, I guess. So
yeah, that was ironic, given it was Lairdy.
Yeah. So I think there's no doubt, and it's good that the players give a shit. That they feel strongly enough to push back, because they're the ones that are having to execute the game plan. If they're executing a game plan that they don't have any faith in, or that they can see isn't working, then there's no one better placed than them to give the coaches feedback.
Well, the interesting thing is if it wasn't about the change in game plan, I did read an article or heard it somewhere where they were talking about the fact that the game has changed and that the good sides are using attacking handball, and were talking about the measurements of the meters gained through forward meters gained through handball. And the interesting thing was that the leader was, I can't remember which club it was out of
Sydney.
Was Sydney, yeah. And I think can't remember what the actual figure was, but it was something like, might have been 670 or 870 or something like that. And Adelaide was the 18th team with 80 metres. So with that, the good teams are attacking with forward handball, and you see them, they take off with runs, and you can see the next 2 or 3 waves moving forward. And so it becomes a forward momentum. Whereas by the very fact that our forward metres gained by a handball in total for the year is 80 metres, tells you we don't play that way.
And Bigman, I don't... there's been a lot of talk. David King and a couple of others, Kane Corns, have said during the week that Adelaide doesn't have enough skillful kickers to be able to implement the style of game that we're trying to implement, which is essentially Brisbane 2.0 in terms of a kicking game. There's no doubt we've got a couple of people on our side who aren't the people you want with ball in hand when you're trying to distribute out of defence. But I don't think the problem is necessarily the fact that we are kicking. I think the problem is where we're kicking to. Because when you watch Brisbane kick, they'll zigzag all over the place and they'll open you up because they'll use kicks to spread their defence. Whereas we are very slow with the way that we kick. We tend to go down the line or we tend to bail out sideways. And we don't actually make ourselves very difficult to play against because we're not quick enough by foot. And we don't seem to have enough options available to the kicker to be able to move the defence from side to side.
It's interesting because I brought up that stat that you were one of the highest running teams in the comp. But when you actually when a lot of times, I'll look up field when we have the ball in the back pocket. There's not a whole lot of movement going on. So I'm wondering where a lot of the time where they clock these kilometres up. Yeah, it is a bit frustrating. I do think it is partly though based around the players we have back there, and not just there, through the midfield as well. I know you stress about Berry being a decent kick, but he's not one to bite off kicks. Peatling did on the weekend and turned it over in the middle, but he's not usually that type either. And we know Laird and even like a Worrell to an extent, and obviously Butts, Murray, the co. They don't really trust their boot to bite off hard kicks, so it means that they essentially have to go either long to a contest or short along the wing, and either of those options it's not working for us to run it. There's no fluidity, and it just feels like when you compare to Brisbane, I know they're not playing the exact same game style, but there are some similarities there. You look at the ball users; they've got such class ball users in the midfield and the back half. Coleman, Zorko, obviously. Fletcher, goes through there. Ashcroft gets a lot of ball pushing up into defence. Even Bailey does that as well, and there's others too. I probably haven't mentioned. It's a stark difference, and it makes it stand out so much, Boss and Macca, when we get class ball users with the ball like Curtin, like Cook. Dawson was hit or miss with his kicking, but we know he's a pretty good kick most of the time. Yeah. It stands out like dog's balls, and unfortunately, with our list build, we haven't prioritised kicking skills enough. But if that's the case, then don't build your game plan around being a high kick, high mark team.
Look,
you got to work what you got.
One thing that was noticeable to me, Macca, and I'll give you a shot in a second, but one thing that was noticeable to me in the third quarter, and it was noticeable to the extent that I thought, shit, we don't see that very often, or we haven't, is Rankin getting the ball behind centre. And it made me think, how often do you see one of our midfielders actually get the ball behind centre? When you actually stop and think about it, it doesn't bloody happen very much. And this is feeding into what you're saying, big man, that we leave the distribution to, blokes like Murray and Butts and when he's in, or Borlos or whoever, or Lairdy. They're not the people that should be distributing the ball, but our midfielders. And I've wondered this for forever, and I've mentioned it before, haven't I, Mac, that our midfielders don't seem to get involved in transition very much at all.
No, it's certainly not as much as the good sides do. The good sides centre around them in their transition, whereas we somehow seem to avoid them because, basically kicking them out wide to the wing. But your point's also valid too about the number of. It would be very interesting to know the number of disposals that our midfield does get in the back line because, apart from somebody like Dawson, who's a very versatile person that goes anywhere and everywhere, it's certainly not a lot. It's certainly not a lot. But as you said, Rankin, I thought you'd love to have two of them. He's so dangerous around goals, but I thought it was one of the best midfielders games that played in Crow's colours for a long, long time because he also did work down in the back lines as well. He worked all around the ground.
A lot of people popping off in chat about, this bloke got a couple of posies and that. Generally speaking, our midfielders, and I think this is to the heart of the matter. I think Matthew Nicks uses our midfielders very much as workhorses around stoppage. So a lot of the time our mids in defence will get possessions around defensive half stoppages. What I'm talking about is in free play. I'm talking about in transition. When you get Rankin getting the ball on an overlap run coming off half back, that sort of stuff. We don't see a huge amount of that. And I think, it's very hard to understand how Nixie uses our mids, but to me it seems like they're very much stoppage focused because our game is very much focused on territory and forcing stoppage. So And I think we use our high half forwards more in terms of link players on transition, more than our mids.
The interesting thing, though, you drew a comparison with Brisbane. When you've got somebody like Zorko and Kitty Coleman who can really deliver a ball, it's very encouraging for a mid to go down there and help because you know they're going to kick it to you and then land it on your chest. So that's not necessarily the case in our team.
Mm.
We don't have that backman who can do that.
In terms of what, Bob?
In terms of how we use our mids and, like, you know, in terms of our transitions and all that.
You've been pushing this for a while, and I think it's quite accurate. It does fluctuate sometimes. Sometimes, like for instance, the showdown, our mids got a lot of the pill because it's quite a contested game.
Mm.
But I'd say more often than not, it's definitely been the defenders. Worrell, obviously Miller being our highest possession winner this year. Dawson would be a high possession winner for us had not missed the 3 games, but he's one that does get back quite a bit. But yeah, you're right. We sort of almost bypassed the midfielders to hit up guys like Neil Bullen, Keys, Taylor on the wings.
Yeah.
And it sort of left a guy like Saligo without a job to do on the weekend. Not that he had a great game anyway, but he was obviously sort of stuck in no man's land. Yeah, it is quite different to other teams where, you know, you look at, I mean, possessions aren't everything, but you do look at the numbers and it definitely goes against what a lot of teams are doing. I don't mind the idea of a halfbacks like a Miller being a super high possession getter because he's using the ball so well. It's making great decisions.
That's no problem at all. I don't have a problem with it.
But it is interesting, isn't it? Like, you know, usually about 20 is a good day for Berry, Peatling and co. Saligo at the moment, if he was to get there. Which is unlike, you know, even a team like Brisbane who we supposedly play like, you know, I know Zorko gets a lot of ball back there, but, you know, still the highest possession winners are almost always Neil, Ashcroft, McCluggage now that he's back, Dunkley, you know, those types. So it is curious. It's almost like we don't trust our midfielders to be used in transition. We just want them to get ready for the next stoppage, which is pretty inevitable unless we turn the ball over.
Yeah, just having a look at some of the comparative stats, and it's interesting reading. Kicks 249 to 196. So, you know, that's a 55 disparity. Handballs 136 to 149. Contested possessions 118 to 127. And that disparity would have been much higher at half time, I would have thought. Uncontested possessions, the amount of outside ball, 262 to 213. Inside 50s, 54 to 45. Even with all that domination, we still only just cracked the 50 mark, and we only won that possession, category by 9. We got beaten at centre clearance 11 to 13, and we're only 4 up on stoppage clearance 18 to 14. So, you know, the stats really do tell a couple of tales there in terms of how we were trying to play the ball, play the game, and also a lack of pressure around the contest, which is something that was identified post match.
Great. You're preaching to the choir there, boss.
Macca?
Yeah, well, actually, there wasn't really much to argue about there, Pete. I mean, what you're saying is 100% right. I mean, the stats tell the story that we struggled to get any sort of game going because we didn't have really any dominance in any area.
Yeah, it was difficult to understand in the first half what our game plan actually was, to be honest. 62 to 38 tackles is an interesting stat given the pressure count. 141 marks to 92 is just insanity. 37 hit-outs to 19. I thought McAndrew did pretty well. We didn't really capitalise on it, though, given our clearance numbers. Rebound 50s were pretty even, 36 to 38, and intercept 65 to 55. I mean, none of those stats really jump out. In the end, it was probably our efficiency in the third quarter and the speed with which we were able to put a score on the board that was the difference, because for the remaining 3 quarters, it was a fairly even tussle.
Which isn't great when you consider the outs for Richmond. I mean, they've got
absolutely not.
Three guys in their VFL squad. I think they've even got less this week, which is crazy. I'm pretty sure there's a chance that if they get one more injury this week, I think there's some guy has a fitness test for them, Caleb Smith. If he fails that, they actually won't be able to field a whole squad of 26.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, that's COVID stuff. So
yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, did you notice in that? What did you think of just about that first half? Right at the end, Jaden Short and another defender, I forget who it was, were just kicking the ball to each other on the right in deep defense for like 20, 30 seconds, and we weren't even pushing up. Like, I'm curious to what your thoughts were when that was happening, because that was mind-numbing to watch.
I just thought it was just classic of what the game was in terms of the determination and our attitude towards the game. It was just slack, absolutely slack. I just thought we were in every aspect of the game in that first half. We were just bloody slack, mate, and that just epitomised it. We just weren't going to make an effort. It just was absolutely hopeless, and it just is. I said that first half is one of the worst half of football I've seen us play for many, many a long year, and that just epitomises it. We just I'm getting tongue tied. They just would not give the effort. Just wouldn't give it.
That little moment, it just reminded me of that Simpsons episode when the soccer players just kicking the ball back and forth. It was hard to watch, mate.
But it's one of those situations where that really illustrates how we want to play. And Richmond just refused to buy into it. We're quite happy to sit back and give teams half the ground on their outlet. It's ridiculous. No frontal pressure whatsoever. All right. Now I think we will go through some individual players momentarily, but let's have a look at the Crowcast Discord best and fairest, because that's really the barometer. And back. And it was pretty much a consensus for the top three. Rankin with 2.64, Jordan Dawson with 1.64, and Wayne Miller with 1.36. Only other people to score a vote were Braden Cook and Lockie McAndrew. And I think that pretty much sums it up. I can't think of too many others that had, any semblance of a full quarter game. Can you, Mac?
No, look, I've got the first three. I don't know how anybody else could have anybody but the first three in the top three, because I thought they were just so far above anybody else. Miller, he had a four-quarter game, and he had 34 disposals, and he's a very good user of the ball. You had Dawson, who played just about every position of the bloody ground and really made a difference when he went into the midfield. He just had to be in the top three. And the other one was Rankin, was absolutely outstanding, and he had to be in the best three. I don't know how anybody else could put anybody else in the top three. I thought they were so far in front that we would skip fourth, fifth and sixth and start at seventh and eighth. That's how far they were in front.
Did you see the coaches' votes, Macca?
No, I haven't seen him.
Yeah, so I mean, it was Laird, and then Miller and Dawson, I think, were not Laird. It was Rankin, and then Miller and Dawson were split on the next set of votes. But it was interesting to see the next three. It was the other three Crows to get votes were Laird, Neil Bullen, and Josh Worrell, who, I would have thought McAndrew and Cook were probably, in my opinion, better players on the day than those three.
Yeah, there wouldn't be much in those five, though. No, because they were so far behind the rest anyhow. I wouldn't argue too much about those last five players, like the three that got it and two that you could have easily put the other two in there. You're quite right, and I think that would be a matter of opinion, just the way people look at it. But I do think the other, the three that we just talked about before, they were just so far in front. There was a big, big gap to the rest. And the rest of them should have a good look in the mirror and think, we've got to improve.
Just a quick observation on those coaches' votes. So we had Joshua Shelley the previous week having a really good game and playing midfield minutes and all the rest of it. This week he's stuck up forward and doesn't get a vote because he's not in it. And it makes you think, well, whose fault is that? Is that Rash's for being stuck up forward, or is it the coaches for inexplicably not giving him any midfield minutes?
Oh, he was not giving any. That was the coaching. I saw, or I heard Rash saying that no, the plan was he would stay in the forward line this week, and maybe it might be turn around next week.
I think without Tex and Fogg, I think they're concerned about just the firepower up there. There's not many other natural goal kickers.
I think they're overthinking shit.
Murray.
Bloody hell, you can kick a bloody goal from 50 for Christ's sakes.
I'm just saying what the thought process would have been.
I'm not having a crack at you, big man. It just bloody frustrates the hell out of me, this overthinking bullshit.
I mean, Ricchetti would have liked to have had a run on the ball, but he was told that it's not his role for the day.
You know, the funny thing is, we're down on firepower because we don't have Tex and Fog, so we put Rash up there, but we don't get the fucking ball in there, so what's the point? I mean, it's flawed logic. It's flawed logic. Get the freaking ball into your forward line and then lock it in so you get repeat 50s and, oh, shit, you probably score a goal. Unbelievable. If that is actually the thinking, that's ridiculous.
I would say
that was the thinking. Yeah,
I wasn't in love with Rash's game. I know he was stuck forward. But I just thought even the fact he wore long sleeves. I know it's a small thing, but no one else is wearing long sleeves. I don't think he needed them. I don't like. I thought he was just a bit off. You know, I thought he was 10% under his intensity level. It was a couple of balls where I think a contest where I would have expected him to win, where he barely broke even.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but what's the bloody long sleeves got to do with it?
I just think it's an admission that you feel the cold or something. I don't know. What? I've never been a big fan of long sleeve, unless you're like it's something you do every game, like what's the guy from Geelong, Close. Like I don't like it. I've got to be honest. It's something that it's always kind of bugs me. It wasn't.
That's right. That's right. That's the same as me glitching out on yellow Guernseys. I can't stand yellow Guernseys because yellow means bloody lack of courage.
Yeah, exactly.
No. What his point is that if you did it every week, that's part of your makeup. But I reckon it looks piss weak when you put one on when you just for a game when it's cool. Yeah.
I don't think he wears makeup, Macca. Anyway, the best and fairest year-to-date results, we have Wayne Miller, a commanding leader on 10.95, Josh Rochelli 6.17, Geordie Dawson creeping up now into third, 5.62, Braden Cook 5.5, Sandberry 4.4, Worrell 4.2, Lockie McAndrew 3.3, and Tex has got something, I can't read the number. So that's the top 8, and I reckon that's pretty darn accurate, Mac. I don't think you could argue too much with that.
No. Good judges. Good judges.
Very good judges. Very good judges. All right. Now, before we talk about our good players, I want to have a discussion about Riley Thilthorpe. Can we have a discussion about Riley Thilthorpe?
Yeah, I know where you're going.
Well, where am I going, Mac?
Well, his performances of late have started to deteriorate, and he's not taking marks that he should be taking. And there's quite a few of those, I thought, on the weekend. And I don't know whether the guy whether it's a lack of fitness or it's a lack of confidence. But they say he's got a crook back. Well, if he's got a crook back, don't play him. But he's playing probably about 50 to 60% of his capabilities at the moment.
Your take, big man. I'd be very interested.
Well, he's so I went to the main session for this week's game, like last week, and he was in the rehab group warming up and stuff. So I didn't really join the main session until about halfway through, and then he did a bit in the match sim, but he's still being restricted. And I think even though a lot of this, a lot of training at this stage of the year is about recovery more than anything, it still just screams a lack of continuity and touch and feel and all those things that you want to be doing when you're to be on your A game. And I just don't think he has that right now. And what it's left in doing is he looks like a player that's just misjudging the ball too often. He's obviously running under it too often. I know you talk about that potentially that's a lack of thirst for contact, and he's almost avoiding contact in some ways, which I think in some situations that's definitely true. In others, I think it's just he's just running under the ball. He's just not not gauging where it is in the air very well.
Mm.
Yeah, there was a couple of marks he took on the weekend which were classic Thilthorpe, like the stuff we saw last year. It's just the consistency of those efforts where he's struggling. And then there's a couple of times where he had the cement hands as well on the weekend. He's just a player out of form. And I think that's obviously been compounded by a lack of continuity at training and potentially a lingering back issue. We've kind of hoped for a rest for him. I don't know how much. He did have a 9-day break going to that game, so you thought he'd be reasonably fresh. But I thought he moved a little bit better than maybe previous weeks, particularly the showdown where he really struggled. But it's just the game's not working for him at the moment, and he's copping a lot of heat. He's not statistically, he's still having a decent year, but it's obviously not what we got last year at all.
Macca?
I think I had my say, mate. I agree with what Bigman's saying, that there's no doubt he's not 100% fit, and he certainly didn't take a lot of marks on the weekend that he should have been. Mostly they were because he was slightly underneath the ball. Has he gone too far forward? He's certainly not playing at the level. I mean, he did get one very nice goal, which I thought he seemed to be okay for that, but it seems to be when he's got to stretch and straighten his back up that he seems to have the problem. So I think he's playing injured, and he's certainly not 100%, and he's certainly not taking what marked he would have taken, swallowed in past times.
Now, Big Man, you're an ex-AFL champion, and Macca, you played a bit of footy as well. I'm just stoking the fire, Big Man. You and I both know that a forward coming up to the ball, the number one reason why he runs up under the ball is not misjudging. It is a lack of willingness to prop, set yourself for a mark. And the reason why you don't want to do that is because you've got blokes behind you. Now, he was guilty of that in his first year of football, and he was somewhat guilty of that in his under-18s year as well. So I'm sorry, but I'm not buying the sore back. I'm not buying it. Because if you're a big fella and you're running out to the ball and it's a little bit higher or coming in at a little bit different, the first thing you do is prop and reset your run. And he doesn't. He just continues to run where he wanted the ball to go and ends up running under it as a consequence, because he doesn't reset his lead. He doesn't prop. He doesn't take any contact at all whatsoever. And it worried me in his first year, and I was so happy to see that it was more or less out of his game last year. But the fact that it's returned this year really bothers me. Really bothers me.
Very hard judgment, because you're assuming on that basis that he hasn't got an injury pain.
I'm not saying that he hasn't got an injury. I'm saying that it's not the reason why he's running under the ball.
But you're saying, but if he had an injury in his back, or it could be even rib issue, who knows? Like, and you're saying he's essentially avoiding contact because he's not stopping and propping, because he doesn't want contact from guys coming from behind. Wouldn't that be attributed to the injury though? If there is an injury,
only if we'd previously not seen any evidence of it.
That's true. I mean, look, I think we all agree. His first couple of years, he wasn't exactly a hard man. He constantly, we used to remember those times he kept running out of the ball, the opposition would take a mark and he'd be whinging to the umpire and stuff. And we're sort of getting flashbacks of that right now. At the moment, he seems to be able to be comfortable really presenting at the ball when it's sort of, eye level. As soon as it's a long high ball, he's really struggling at the moment. And he's often going up with one hand as well, which is obviously never good. So back into bad habits. Has he dropped off in some area of his preparation that was the reason why he came so, improved so quickly in that area last year? Is it purely because of this back injury? I mean, it is interesting though, boss. I think I mentioned in one of the preseason training reports we did, that he was running under the ball a lot in preseason. And thankfully, or at the time, that sort of corrected itself in some of the actual community and AFL matches leading up into round one. But he's gone back to bad habits again. So, yeah, I'm curious. I mean, there's a lot of theorizations of why this is happening. I'm sure there's probably a multitude of reasons, but the fact of the matter is he's not deplorable at the moment, but he is obviously the one main target we have there, and he's not giving us enough because he's not, as you said, he's not having any real physical presence in the air unless it's on his terms.
Yeah, there was that last entry in the showdown last week. He was very lucky that we were able to get the crumb and eventually get the goal, win the game, because when that pack ran out to meet that inside 50 from Rankin, he blatantly, and I don't use this word lightly, but he blatantly squibbed it. He faked a push. He faked a push, but he blatantly squibbed it. And I'm sorry, I don't like saying that, but he did.
Yeah, I remember that one, Fane, and I have to give you that one. That one was pretty clear. That was pretty clear, that one.
Yeah. Even the commentators called it, because one of them, I remember sort of going, oh, like this. And initially I thought he was talking about maybe a push in the back, but I think they called it because they didn't mention anything about that afterwards. I think because players know. Players watching other players know what they're doing. You know when a player's squibbing for the ball. You know, going up one-handed is squibbing. Running underneath it is squibbing. You know, faking pushes and all that is squibbing. And I think, and I don't want to be harsh on the kid, and I don't know his injury situation. He's probably carrying something. But by the same token, I think Riley needs to work out what sort of player he wants to be. And if he's got demons with regards to contact, he needs to overcome them. And if that means that we need to get Wayne Carey into the club, or Jonathan Brown into the club, or someone like that into the club to work with him, then we have to do it, because we have a bona fide champion player on our hands that is in danger of falling the wayside really, really quickly if he doesn't maximise his strengths. And his strengths are his size and his ability to take marks when he's confident.
What you're saying is very harsh, mate, but sadly there seems to be an element of truth in it.
Yeah, look, our future prospects rely heavily on Riley. They really do. Very
much.
And
yeah, very much so.
And I must admit, when he first came on the scene, I was one of the few that said he should be rucking and around the ball, because, and someone said it in the chat, I can't remember who, it might have been a couple of bust-ups said it in the chat. It makes you wonder whether, at his heart, he is actually more of a midfield type player, but just in a 200 centimetre body.
Well, actually, there's a lot of truth in that, Bean, because my grandson, he played against him, and he said he was not quite as tall as he is now, but he was tallish for his age, and he said he'd never seen anybody with the skills, including midfielders, that Thilthorpe had in those games. But he just said he played like a rover. He just embarrassed everybody else with his skills. So I think you're right that he's actually, at heart, he's a midfield type, but he just grew into a big, tall guy.
Yeah.
But then we saw what he did last year. So the evidence is there of what he actually is capable of. And
what he's capable of, absolutely.
Yeah. You can't sacrifice that sort of ability.
No, B. Packer makes a very good comparison to Luke Jackson. He is quite a similar player to Luke Jackson, and he could have the same level of impact as a Luke Jackson. But Luke Jackson will jump at the ball. He won't die wondering. And look, I'm not having a crack at Riley because he's got immense talent. And I just want him to succeed to the best of his ability, because he could be the best power forward in the competition. But I wonder whether playing him deep forward is the right thing for us to be doing. I wonder whether it would be better to, if we're going to play Toby Murray and Riley, I wonder whether, because Riley's getting double teamed as well, which doesn't help. He's getting parked under the ball and we're sitting it on his head. That doesn't help either. But I wonder whether leading Riley up to the ball and getting him involved in general play is a better way of using him.
I did notice that there was a couple of instances on Sunday, whatever the game was, of Murray and Thilthorpe competing for the same footy. Yeah. And I was like, gee, like we shouldn't be like, I know Murray's only young, but and inexperienced, but that was frustrating me. You know, he was bringing his opponent to the contest, and it feels like he's struggling enough one-on-one. He doesn't need a bloody another guy coming in to help out as well. So just something I'd point out.
Yeah,
that is a valid point, because if Walker's in that pocket, Walker will he'll head towards the other flank, and take the other player away. So that is valid. Unfortunately, Murray did sort of go and, if not in the contest, too close to the contest and bringing his man across as well. So there is the validity in that statement. Yeah, definitely right.
He's not a Tom Lynch type. He's not a Ben King type, in my opinion. He's far too good to be stuck at full forward. We like a player of his quality who will probably be on, over, like his next contract is going to be Wanganeen Miller alike. You need to get value. And to me, the value, someone mentioned Nick Riewoldt, having that Nick Riewoldt type running around, taking marks on because he's an endurance beast. He's got great hands out in front of his eyes when he can run at the ball. And he's like so unique at ground level, with a really good field kick and all the rest of it. And I don't think a power forward situation is the best situation for Riley Thilthorpe. I really don't think it is.
Last year we certainly used him a lot up on the wings. He was like a bailout kick a lot of the time.
Yeah,
and that's almost gone the way of the dodo this year. He's been parked a lot more deep. Yeah. Maybe because of his back issues, he's not as mobile. He probably doesn't have to fit the space at the moment to cover that sort of ground movement. Or maybe it's a structural thing. We don't trust anyone else to take marks up there for the next kick. But either way, it's definitely standing out. That's another reason he was so good last year. He was able to help out, and obviously that gets into the game as well. So then when he does have opportunities up forward, he's got that confidence to launch at the footy more. Because he's already winning contests down the line.
Yeah, and it also makes him hard to double team. If he's coming up the ground, then going back and coming up and going back and doing those routes and those running patterns, he's not going to get double teamed, and he's going to have a better run at a marking contest up forward, because he's not going to have two blokes hanging off him. I just don't think he's comfortable in that power forward type role, and he's got so many other skills that it just seems like a massive waste to have a bloke like that out of the game for 50, 60, 70% of the game. It just, like, to me, it's just a complete waste.
I think you're right, Ben, but I just still think there is an injury there at the moment, and I say it's quite a niggle. He's got at least, he's definitely got a niggle. There's no doubt about that, and so you couldn't possibly do what you're suggesting now. But 100% fit, I think what you suggest is a very good suggestion. I think at the moment what we really need to do is to the other two forwards up on that line, particular line in particular, get out wide. Just give him a one-on-one and he'll do well.
Interesting stuff. All right, let's have a look at some individuals, and I think we can't go past looking at Isaac first of all, because his best game for the year without a doubt. Let's just have a look here what I'm doing. And it was really good to see him back and obviously taking charge of the situation. Whoops.
Well, what I liked about it, I thought it was a complete midfield performance by him. It wasn't just hanging, as you mentioned before. It wasn't just hanging around at the centre bounce and going forward. It was he worked as the whole ground, and it actually probably one of the classiest midfield games played for the Crows for many a long year. Actually, I can't remember anybody else playing a better one. Actually.
Yeah, 100%. He had 24 kicks, obviously, 9 handballs, 9 tackles, 10 marks, 10 contested possessions, 22 uncontested possessions, 8 inside 50s, 2 rebound 50s, 1 centre clearance, 3 stoppage clearances. He really showed his value. And it was, as Milk pointed out in his interview last night on 5AA, what was impressive about Isaac was just as much his defensive work as his offensive work.
I thought it was a sorry, mate. Is it just?
No, you go.
I was just going to say that his game, I thought was a complete package. I couldn't pick any aspect of his game where he could be criticised. I just thought that, as I said, I thought it was the best midfield game we've had played for the club for many, many a long year.
Big man.
Yeah, I mean, the stats show that alone, don't they? He was very well balanced in all areas. I'm glad he cashed in. He was obviously given free rein by the club and also by Richmond just to roam around and do what he wants. He's not going to have that in the next few weeks, unfortunately. He's got a date with probably Jai Simpkin next week, I'm guessing, either that or Finn O'Sullivan. And then he'll have Washington Mullen after the bye. So he's going to have some really tough games coming up where hopefully he can work through and still contribute. But this game he was just off the leash and he was working up down. He was getting ball in deep defence. He was obviously kicking goals on the run. He was winning clearances. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously been building, I think, in the last 2 to 3 weeks. There's definitely been a shift with obviously his role, first and foremost, but also just his confidence. I think that goal on the run again in the showdown was a real good turning point moment for him where it really looked like the old Isaac. And obviously, I mean, obviously you're going to consider the opposition, but that was still just a brilliant game from him. And you need your stars to play well, and he's almost as the biggest star we've got. So, yeah, hopefully. I mean, as I said, he's got some tough games coming up, but that was definitely the best we've seen from him for, I don't know, well, since August last year, which is a long time going back.
Just a reminder, don't forget, if you are in our Discord studio audience and you want to have your say, stick your hand up and we'll get you on board. And if you want your comment on YouTube read out, stick a super chat in there and I will read it out for you. All right. Wayne Miller, obviously just continuing on his stellar form. He had 18 kicks, 16 handballs, 2 tackles, 6 marks, 10 contested and 20 uncontested possessions, 2 inside 50s, no rebound 50s. That does not seem right to me. 8 intercepts.
That doesn't sound correct, actually.
No.
I thought he played an outstanding game, really outstanding game, and he's had an outstanding year. He'd be in front of our best and fairest. There's no doubt about that because I can't recall it if he has, but I can't remember him playing a bad game this year at all. And we've always known he's got talent, but we've never, either mainly through injury, we've never really seen it fully. But this year, I just think we're getting spoiled. He's just giving us loads of talent. And I think he had, 33 possessions, was it? Something like that, playing? 34 possessions. I mean, he's one of the players in the team that can actually use a football as well. So I think he's been outstanding. Loved his game. And I'm surprised about that particular stat you read out, but so be it. Even if it is that, I just thought I loved his game.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, people in the chat still saying, "Oh, you wanted to drop him." Like, I think that was said at the beginning of the season after a pretty average sort of 2025. So I think we've all acknowledged that he's having a stellar season. So maybe that's a little bit old, that comment. Don't know.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be said this year. I mean, you call it as you see it, and any particular year. That can apply to any player any year. They might have a really off year, and if they're not playing well, you drop them.
Yeah, it's like people, like when I said 2 years ago, maybe we should think about trading Rochelle. And they're still bringing it up now. It's like, what have we got, a bunch of elephants in the audience? Geordie Dawson, big man. Another stellar captain's game, particularly after half-time. 22 kicks, 7 handballs, 4 tackles, 12 marks, 10 contested and 19 uncontested, 7 inside 50s, 3 rebound 50s and 5 intercepts. We've touched on what he's been through the last month, but that really was a vintage Jordan Dawson game, really.
Yeah, I agree. It was interesting. Like he obviously got put back in the middle in the start of the third and won that first centre clearance, and I think he was involved in our first 2 goals from memory. Those 2 quick goals we got to get back in front early in the third. So he's a moments player. He's shown that now. He's got a pretty good record of doing that, and I mean, it's hard to fathom how he's the 2 games he's played in between, obviously the tragedy that happened and then the funeral that happened. They had to go through after that, which is obviously another wave of emotion to go through. His 2 performances where he's travelled over with the boys, he's been our best or close to our best player in both games, which is a credit to him. And again, it also shows how much we do rely on him quite a bit, because he is a player that wins his 50-50s and he rarely gets beaten at anything. Obviously you love more of him, a version of him at half back as well. I don't mind the idea of giving him some time at half back, because he's so good at obviously his positioning, his running carry as well. But we needed him in the midfield because we just weren't winning. We were getting beaten by Taranto and Jack Ross and co in there. So for him to come in and just say, no, we're not, this is not happening in that third term. That's why he's captain.
Yeah.
There's many players they refer to as a unicorn, but you really could call Dawson one, because if you're really under pressure, you throw him in the back lines and the guy keeps saving it. You put him in the midfield when it's necessary, and he performs. You need him up forward. He'll take marks and kick goals. I think he is the most versatile player in the competition. I can't think of any other player from any other team that could do as well as Dawson can on every line in the game. He's just a champion.
Macca, I think he might, if he continues on this path, and there's no reason to think that he won't, I think he will deservedly be seen in the same esteem as Marcus Bontempelli. I think that he's that kind of player. He can play up forward, he can play midfield, he can do a job. He's always reliable. He puts the team on his back every week, and I would suggest he probably our most inspirational leader since Mark Rashido on the field.
Yep, no doubt.
And good on him. Poor lad's been through so much lately, and for him to come out and perform the way that he did, it was just a credit to him. Absolute credit to him. All right, now who else? See, this is where it all falls away. Let's have a look at. Who do you want to have a look? Let's have a look at Braden Cook real quick.
Yeah.
What did he do? Braden Cook, he had 14 kicks, 8 handballs, so 22 touches, 1 tackle, 7 marks, 5 contested and 17 uncontested possessions, 3 inside 50s, 6 rebound 50s, so he's working back quite well, 5 intercepts. I felt like he and Cumming kind of had reverse roles this week. We saw Cumming up forward a little bit more, or drifting forward a little bit more, whereas Braden was playing a little bit more behind the ball. Didn't actually mind it that much, Macca.
Look, he's actually turning into a classy player. Like he's always shown he's got a bit, but I think this year
you wanted to drop him, didn't you? Didn't you want to drop him?
I would have been bad if he got last year. He got one position for the game. I was wrong.
Oh, it's happening again.
Oh, calm down. Just stop talking loud. He talks loud, big man, and it goes all fuzzy.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, but I thought he was outstanding actually in the sense that he at the time so he did some very good stuff in the back lines, as you pointed out, Pete. He's capable now of working in the back lines, working the forward lines, working on the wing. I won't say it's the best game he's ever played, but it was a very good, solid game by him. Anyhow, I thought he could walk off the ground thinking that at least he did his share.
Yeah, definitely a breakout season, Mock Dog. The absolute epitome, as you say. That little dance step that he did to get around about 27. I think he actually got through the whole Richmond squad with that move. It was absolutely delicious.
You should take up ballet or something. He's got a gift.
It was amazing. That was Wayne Miller-alike.
It's funny, boss. We were talking in pre-season. We've got a bit of a wing crisis. Obviously at that stage, Curtin was out, and we thought Chase Jones might be playing, permanent wing for us. But here comes the Cookie Monster. He was actually training at half back majority of the pre-season, but he's really found a niche there on that wing. He's covering a lot of ground. He's getting used more now. I think the team has more confidence to use him, and he's obviously working harder to get to those important spaces.
Definitely.
And just the ball use. Like there's probably not enough guys in our team, and I sort of talked about this earlier, where when they have the ball, you're like, oh, okay, it's something good. He's the next possession. This possession is going to be good. It's going to lead to something. Miller has that. Cook has that. Dan Curtin's another one who does have that as well. It's just we're pretty blessed that he's actually emerged, because I think we really needed this sort of type of player, that silky skilled X factor, who's just he's blossomed. He's only 23 still, so I know it's taken.
I was going to say he's got a lot of improvement left in him. Like, this is his breakout year. There's still plenty of upside in that lad.
Yeah, and
I agree.
Whatever he did in the off season to mentally and also physically to get him to this point where he was just, it was so clear early on in the preseason he was bursting to go. Just keep doing that, Cookie, because it's paid dividends.
100%. All right, Rory Laird. Let's talk about Rory Laird for a minute, because we kind of ignore Rory these days for whatever reason. He had 16 kicks, 11 handballs, 1 tackle, 12 marks, 6 contested possessions, 21 uncontested possessions, 1 inside 50, 6 rebound 50s, 5 intercepts, and not on the screen, but 243 metres gained. Macca, I'll put it to you that someone getting 21 uncontested possessions and a designated distributor off half back should be getting more than 243 metres gained.
I can't argue with you, not on that, not on those numbers. He certainly had no trouble getting hold of the ball, but my criticism of him was I didn't think he did a lot with it. He really didn't, and I think that's probably a perpetual criticism most weeks. It's a pity that he isn't a good user of the ball, because he doesn't seem to have any problem getting it one way or the other, because he always ends up with pretty good stats to get it, but. No, he's certainly not an attacking type halfback, and it would be nice that if he was, but he's too old for that. He's never going to change now. Look, he was serviceable, but not damaging.
Big man, I reckon that Lairdy's biggest problem these days is just a sheer lack of pace. He's got no ability to run through congestion. He will kick to get himself, or handball to get himself out of trouble. And it's one of the reasons why he doesn't get a lot of meterage, because he's not actually capable of getting any separation.
Yeah, he's a bit of a handbrake, and I should preface this by saying that I actually thought I really liked his ground ball on the week, and we know that's what he's good at.
I know
it's 100%. One trick he has. Whenever times there was one ball there. In the it might have been the last quarter where he was out. He was the one that really went hard for it on the deck, fished it out, and got us going out of hard back again. Like that stuff. We don't really have many types like that in defence. So he does have his purpose there, but as I said, he's a bit of a handbrake when we're trying to transition out of the ball out of defence by foot. he gets in the right spaces because he always has, and also because I think the opposition just let him. And he just really plays on. He will stop and prop, and then he'll wait a little bit, and he rarely gives it to anyone else by hand. And no one asks for the handball receive. He's almost in the Jordan Butts territory where I'd almost demand that he gives the ball off by hand as much as possible. But yeah, we don't have a system based around that. And in the end, he ends up going short and wide, which is not the worst thing because I hate when it's still better than those 35-meter lofts up down the line.
Well, his one inside 50 was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, there was the classic lead, just sky kick that one. But yeah, either way, even the short kicks, I mean, they just bog us down, and it's almost like you just want the ball to be in pretty much anyone else's hands, which is not great for a guy who's, lead has been a consistent 20-plus disposal winner off halfback all his career, pretty much. And you're right, I think that he's obviously lost a bit of speed, which means he's not as willing to take the game on. Not that he was ever bloody, Dane Zorko back there, but he
had enough power to go
yeah,
through.
No, there was definitely more getting go in his game than he has now, where he's very stodgy and stagnant. I guess the game plan suits him to a T, which is ironic given he criticised it on the radio. But I do think that, as I said, he offers some good leading, but his game just isn't that well-rounded enough to really play that explosive halfback role that you need. I know look how much Miller has improved in that space, even though he's still not an absolute jet off halfback in terms of, running, carry and breaking lines. He's one that still tries to do some things, whereas Lairdy just puts the brakes on the whole team basically as soon as he gets it.
Well, Mac, I think that having Laird and Bond in that back line is causing us a bit of imbalance and is actually contributing to our lack of run out of defence. And I think we can only have one or the other. Bond, I'm starting to get really cool about because I just feel like he's hit a bit of a wall and he maybe needs to go back to the twos and have get some confidence and maybe a run on the ball or something like that. But I don't necessarily know whether he's the ultimate Laird replacement. Personally, I wouldn't have either of them in there. I would have Max Michelani play that role. We saw Max actually get a little bit of run and carry against Richmond for the first time all season. He had 11 kicks, 3 handballs, 8 marks, 14 uncontested possessions, 3 rebound 50s and 2 inside 50s. It was nice to see Max actually get some clear grass and be able to use it a bit. And I think I would be inclined to have Cumming, Hinge and Miller Jr. as our 3 running backs and have Max playing that role that Laird and Bond are kind of playing in terms of playing on the small or whatever, because I think Max can probably distribute better. And then we've got the tools, whoever it is, Butts, Keane, Murray, whoever. I don't actually think there's room, and I'm fully aware that Laird won't get dropped, but I think it's actually causing us a bit of an imbalance in terms of our small to medium defenders.
Well, you're right, because there's no rebound because of that situation, and you're right that they won't drop Laird. So I would certainly replace Bond at this stage. I mean, he's had other games where he's done well in the past, but at the moment, no, not really. And we do, as you say, need a bit more. I mean, Nankervis could come in and take that role. Because I think Nankervis has done pretty good every time he's been.
Yeah, I would push Cummins back and have Nankervis on the wing. I think having Cook and Nank on the wings gives us some real dynamism through there. Nank can take a mark too. I honestly think Cummings is better behind the ball. He played a lot better for GWS playing behind the ball, running at the ball. He's got a nice kick, so he's a good distributor. Doesn't mind biting off a bit. And I reckon you have him, Wayne Miller and Hinge as your distributors out of the back line with a bit of Max because Max can play on those zippy smalls as well, and have Nankervis and Cook on the wings, with Pedler and Neil Bullen as your kind of high half forwards. I think that's much more stable and dynamic than what we've got at the moment.
I like that structure. It's much, much better. My only doubt at the moment is on Hinge, because before he got hurt, he wasn't really playing that well. So
he played it right in the game that he got when he came back. He was playing well when he did his hamstring.
Yeah, so if Hinge plays up to that form, that is a much better structure, and certainly a more dynamic one, and you're certainly one that's going to rebound better and also probably use the ball better as well. So, yeah, I think it's a good structure.
Big man, what are your thoughts on the Laird, Bond, Michael Annie situation?
So, I do like Bond, but he's got all the traits of someone. He wasn't as bad on the weekend. It wasn't as exposed just because the quality of opposition wasn't there. But he has shown like all the signs of someone who's down on confidence. It's not just his stuff with the ball. It's also defensively. He's just been a bit off, which wasn't the case last year where he was super sharp. Playing against really good oppo like Jack Higgins and such. So if he's in the team, it means Max needs to be the run and carry guy. And I'd love for Max to study the tapes of like a Lockie Ash, for instance, who was he was a great ball winner with speed out of defence. And I don't think Ash is that great a player because I think he's very prone to poor decision making, but he is still quite a good weapon, and he plays the modern game well. And I think that they share some traits because Max does have some pretty high end speed. We saw that on the weekend. And he's one
he's quite elusive as well.
Yeah, he's one of the few in our defence who's actually willing to break lines. So there's something to work with there. And if we did do that, play Bond as the lockdown, then that obviously frees up Max. The problem is we just don't utilise Max enough. I think Max has been played negatively. I think he's had roles that are largely defence focused, big man. Yeah, well, that's the thing though. Like, if you're going to do that, then just why play Bond? I'd rather have a Nankin there who's someone that can, who has a bit of zip and is willing to take risks and take meterage by foot. So, I just don't know if the mix is quite right there, and I think it's partly just not just the players we have out there, but just the way we have them playing. We just don't maximise their actual strengths. I think you're a bit kind to Max about his foot skills. That's probably one area where I'm still a bit concerned about. In that his kicking is he tends to undercook his kicks a bit, or overcook them as well. He doesn't have
got a good technique though, big man. I think that's something that can be worked on.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I worry he's got a bit of the Schoenbergs where he just doesn't know where exactly his kick's going to go each time he kicks it. But look, he's okay. He's a work in progress still. He probably isn't as advanced as we had hoped at this stage, but as I said, I think there's an opportunity there, and he showed on the weekend what he's actually got in terms of that express pace. So I think the mix isn't quite right. Laird obviously isn't going to get dropped, so it's hard to discuss it a team without him.
That's the problem,
it's not going to happen. Yeah, we can talk all the hypotheticals we want, Macca, but at the end of the day, old mate Laird, he's not going anywhere until he retires, pretty much, is he?
No, he's got to. If you're going to do changes, you've got to say, well, he's stuck there now. Where we got to work around him, and because Nick won't drop him. That just won't happen. He'll be in there all year. But I also think though that Bond hasn't done enough to justify staying in. The only thing is that we come up against North Melbourne this week, and do we play a tag, on their midfield, on like Sheasel, for example? Do you try to play a tag on him? Because, I mean, he has the ability to cut you to ribbons. He's a very classy player. But, I mean, they've got other players there as well. But their midfield's pretty good. And, they got LDU. I mean, he just probably had one of his best games for a long, long time this week. They got McKercher who goes through there as well. They've just got a lot of talent goes through there.
Trouble is, if we use Bond to on a run with role, which we've kind of been using Berry and Peatling as our sort of midfield, not hard taggers, but kind of run with kind of players. If we use Bond in a hard tag, then we're sacrificing a midfield spot, and we're pretty light on there as it is.
I think that's I put it this way. I'm a bit worried, and this is I don't want to shade Bonds because like I still have optimism he's got to get there at some point. But just given his current confidence and form levels, if he's the matchup for Paul Curtis, that worries me.
Oh, it'd have to be Michael Annie on Curtis, wouldn't it?
Well, who's
yeah, no, it would be Michael Lenny on Curtis.
Well, who's Bond's the play on there? Because Curtis is their prime small forward.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think Bond stays in the side.
No, I don't think he does.
I thought that last week, but we thought Nate was going to come in for Bond, but it didn't happen. Bond stayed in, so obviously the coaches rate him and want him to stay in the team, even despite his current form issues.
I mean, I'm happy that he's had some continuity, but I think there comes a point where it's like, all right, you've had a good run. He's been in most of the season. We just need you to go back and find the agate a bit and get some confidence back up and, tidy up a couple of things. We've got plenty of blokes that can come in and play the role that deserve an opportunity. Even a young lad like Oscar Ryan probably deserves a chance soon. He's been going all right the last couple of weeks. He should be part of the conversation. So I think we've kind of reached the point with Hugh that maybe just needs to have a breather for a little bit.
Well, I'm certainly in that camp. And I'm in the same camp as Bigman. I also thought he was very lucky to be in this week. So, and he did nothing to change my mind. So, I would definitely put him in. Give him a rest and bring possibly Dan Curvis in. But we're going to have to drop players because we've got two players coming in with Fogarty and Archie, so we've got to make room for them as well.
Well, that's assuming they come in.
Fog is a definite apparently, and I think that Archie will as well.
Who told you he was a definite?
Well, I'm only reading what the journos are saying, and I presume
I've not read anything to say that he's a definite. He's certainly got through the game all right.
Well, whether I read it somewhere, Pete, I can't tell you where, but my own opinion is that he will come in anyhow.
I mean, they don't declare any definites on a Tuesday.
Why wouldn't he come in, though, Pete?
Well, I mean, he had an okay game in the twos.
Yeah. Well, I'd still bring him in.
So who you drop? Oh, we'll get to that in a minute. Because we're not talking about next week yet, Macca. We're talking about this week, last week.
Yep.
Another person that I want to talk about who's, again, just an absolute enigma is Jake Saligo. Only had the 8 disposals, 5 kicks, 3 handballs, 2 tackles, 2 marks, 5 contested possessions, 4 uncontested, 1 inside 50, 1 centre clearance, 1 stoppage clearance. I don't actually know what his job was. I think his time on ground was down to about 64%, if I remember rightly.
Sounds right. Yep.
After having over 72 or 73 the week before and having a pretty decent showdown and getting, knocking up, getting the ball in the SANFL the week before. What the hell's going on with this kid?
I don't know. He didn't do much when he was on the ground playing it. He had a pretty poor game. I think he only had about 8 disposals, was it?
I just read that out.
Right. Yeah, so he had the 8 disposals. That's not a lot of disposals for 64% or whatever it was on ground. And I just don't think he's in good form at the moment.
Any insight, big man?
If he played a showdown every week, he'd be a good player at the moment. He seems to only play for all those games. He's it's amazing because like we saw last year, like I know we talked about how he went off the ball a bit after the about halfway point, seemed to run out of legs a bit. But his first half of last year was outstanding, particularly that first batch of games when we were up and running. And even last week, I thought we saw a bit of the old Jake back. But again, he sort of really struggled again to cover the ground. He had that sort of wobbly look again. Didn't have that power in his body again. There was a couple of times where he just looked a bit inept, which is not something you'd usually say about him, because I really rate this guy. You know, he's a really classy ball user. He makes good decisions in tight. He's a clearance beast, and he's someone you want kicking the footy inside 50. But he's got to get the ball first, and right now we don't know what you're going to get from him. As a 23-year-old, it's just, it's a bit disappointing. We know he's had his troubles, that heart surgery, and I mean, that definitely took a lot of the wind out of his sails in terms of his preseason preparation. But I still think that, I would like to see him maybe, it's still a lot of the season to go, but maybe at the end of the year, I'd like to see him see what he can do in terms of his preparation to, like, he's a pretty good runner, but it just feels like he maybe is not quite as fit and hardened as some of the other boys, and maybe that's having an impact. I think that he has to look at maybe just some of the ways how can he get the most out of his body, because we know he's not super quick, but he's got some explosive, like more power-like traits that he does have, and he just can't get the most out of him at the moment. So maybe he can look at his preparation. But in terms of this year, we need to salvage it, because he's part of our best 22. But if he's going to play a lot like that, Macca, he could be one that maybe needs to go back to the reserves again, because there are guys coming into the team. I know they're not midfielders, but if we're going to fit in a Fogg and an Archie, etc., going forward, that's good to have that sort of competition, but it would be a shame if it's Saligo. But how can you justify it being other players when he puts up that sort of game?
Well, by his normal standards, a very, very, very poor game, and I barely noticed him at all, and the stats bear that out. And I just don't think in the recent weeks that he has been that good. Perhaps maybe he does deserve to be dropped for a week and find some form in the twos, because as I said, we're going to be playing up against an A-grade midfield this week. They do have an A-grade midfield, quality players, and we can't afford a player who's only going to get a handful of kicks. So I don't know. I think he'll be lucky. He may hold his spot, but I think he'll be lucky if he does.
I'm all for allowing him an opportunity to bounce back. He didn't play badly in the showdown, played very well. And the week before, he had a really good SANFL game. Not that that's a huge indicator, but it indicates that he's running on top of the ground and he was able to get through the game, and fitness at least, because at the SANFL level you've got to go and get your own agate quite a bit, so you've got to be fit, and I think we need as many midfield soldiers as we can get against North Melbourne, and I don't think there's anyone, I don't think it's a game to be trying someone new like a Sid Draper, and I don't think it's necessarily the game that Charlie Edwards comes back. So I think at this stage you keep Jake in, but if he doesn't perform against North Melbourne, you'd probably consider what you're doing with him leading up to the bye, and whether you take him to Tasmania. I'm just really gutted for the bloke, because I'm a bit like you, big man. I've got so much time for him. He's such a workhorse, and he's a hard unit, and he doesn't shirk it. I know that at times he's been played in that, as Zach Taylor calls it, the graveyard spot, rather than in the midfield. I'm not quite sure what his role is. He's not a primary mid at the moment, so what is he? How are they using him?
I think you're selling him short too there, because he's a workhorse, but he's also got some genuine class.
No doubt.
He's able to give himself a bit of time in traffic. He usually makes good decisions, and when he's up and running, he's a really nice user by foot, because he's able to give himself that little bit extra time and space with that power of that step and the ability to push off opponents. Like, he's actually got the makings of a Lockie Neal type, but he's right now. Is he
a victim of our system, big man? Because you know, and sorry to get on my hobby horse again, but our lack of focus on midfielders in transition. Jake is exactly the type of player that you want getting involved, transitioning from back to forward half. You know, he can take some meterage. He's a really good kick, and he's the sort of lad that you want to have the ball in hand going into your forward 50. We saw a few weeks ago he was one of the few players that dropped their eyes and lace out a couple of kicks into Toby Murray a few weeks ago. Like, he's the sort of kid that we should be getting involved in transition, but he just doesn't seem to get it on the way through.
That was happening last year though, as well. He was winning very little easy ball. A lot of, even in the back half of last year, he would have had a really high contested possession rate, which meant, you know, a lot of his kicks were under pressure. And this year he's not even getting that. He's, you know, I did in the showdown, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that, because obviously we sort of feel like our game plan this year is sort of an extension of what we were doing in the back half of last year. So potentially there's something there, and obviously when he was at his best was when we were playing faster, more aggressive footy in that first batch of games last year.
Yeah.
To me, look, I'll be honest. I think I'm seeing a player who just needs to be in tip-top shape to play at his best, and he's just not that at the moment. He just hasn't had the preparation required, and it's hard to turn it around in footy season because you spend most of your time recovering from the game before. So it's not like you're going to get much fitter, other than just maybe hopefully just getting rid of some niggles and all that. But I don't think it's a niggle problem. I think it just hasn't had the kilometres in the legs.
But
it shows.
We have a bunch of people that get paid a shit ton of money to be strength and conditioning coaches. Surely they are able to flag to the coaching staff and say, look, Solly's underdone. We need to basically put a little mini pre-season into him. Let's give him a couple of weeks rest, plus the bye. That gives us a chance just to load him up a bit, and hopefully after the bye comes back. He's no use to us getting 8 touches. He may as well go and just, you know, work off a little bit of condition that he might have put on during his break, which is natural, and get him tip top.
In my world, that would be what I'd be doing. It doesn't guarantee that he's going to have a great finish of the year, but it certainly would help his case for his own benefit as well.
Gives him the best opportunity, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you know, Curtin's back for his 3rd game. You know, potentially we can move him into a more midfield, like an on-ball role this week going forward. So there is some opportunity to give to other players there. Even my boy Milk as well, if he stays in the team.
Zach Taylor and Luke Pedler can take some of those minutes.
Yep. So, and look, I think we all want Saliga on the team, but we want the Saliga we saw last year, not the Saliga we've seen. You know, the showdown game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that summary. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. Sam Berry had a very, very poor game, his worst game for the season by far. 7 kicks, 13 handballs, 3 tackles, 4 marks, 9 contested possessions, 12 uncontested, only 1 inside 50, 3 centre and 2 stoppage clearances. I was really disappointed in Sam's game. You know, he can't be up all the time, I guess. But he's a bit of a catalyst for us inside, and you know, his tackle count was down, his possession was terribly down, and his contested ball work was terribly down. He was led to the ball quite often by the Richmond midfield, and you know, he's having a really good season up until that game, Macca. But he's by no means a lock, and he can't afford to be complacent like that.
Well, I thought last week, I think it was last week, he's an outstanding game, you know, a brilliant game, and
19 tackles.
Yeah, absolute peak of his game last week. I thought he still tried very hard. You know, sometimes you can try your guts out, it doesn't work for you. With him, some of the players I would put my finger on and say they didn't work hard enough. I thought Sam tried hard enough, but I don't think the breaks went his way. And, you know, it's just one of those. He still had 20 disposals, but 3 tackles. It's not up to what he's probably capable of. But I'm not going to knock him, and because of the set that in my opinion, he was trying his guts out, and it just didn't go his way for the day, which can happen.
Well, big man, I'm quite humbled by your empathy towards Sam, given your previous attitude towards him, Mac. But 7 kicks and 13 handballs suggests to me that a bloke that wasn't trying hard enough, because usually he's noted for getting through congestion, distributing the ball by foot. 9 contested possessions is a pretty average return. 1 inside 50 is a pretty average return. If Sam wants to be our prime inside mover, he's got to be cleaner with the ball, and he's got to get far more of it than what he got on the weekend against, let's face it, a weakened opposition.
I can't argue with that. But I'm just prepared to cut him a little bit of slack, because I did think his effort was there, Fiend, and it just didn't seem to work for him.
I directed that one at Big Man. What do you reckon, Big Man?
It's Macca's show. He can do what he wants. Look, I think
I don't think it's Macca's show.
he just didn't put the he never put the Jets on.
No,
he was in slow motion all the game. So that was disappointing, because when we've seen him, what we liked about him this year is his willingness to actually accelerate. But he fumbled a bit, and then he just rarely got the opportunity, or certainly didn't take the opportunity to burst away from contest. And he got shown up a bit by guys like Taranto and Ross, who aren't exactly express themselves.
No,
it was probably an opportunity to leave him in the dust a bit, and he just didn't do it. I'm glad he's based this. This is his baseline this year, where he was getting 12, 13, 14 touches last year. He certainly improved his production level, but this wasn't his greatest game. Thankfully, Rankin and Dawson lifted, because we needed them too. Because you're right, Berry wasn't exactly the Berry of last week.
Wasn't very good.
Haven't heard that before, mate.
All right. Luke Pedlar is another one where someone said, I think it was today, that when assessing Zach Taylor and Luke Pedlar, we should actually combine their stats, because they're actually sharing the one position, and that's the graveyard shift, as Zach himself calls it. Luke, 7 kicks, 1 handball, kicked a beautiful goal to get us going in the first, 3 tackles, 6 marks, 4 contested and 4 uncontested possessions, 2 inside 50s. I fear for this kid, because he's got so much to offer, and playing that role that he's playing, along with Zach Taylor, it's an absolute freaking waste, Macca. Absolute waste.
Well, it's the loser spot. I mean, you have to be bloody good.
They're playing the Lockie Murphy. They're playing the Lockie Murphy role between the two of them. It's basically what they're playing.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what Pedlar's fitness is like, but
it's fine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with his playing fitness.
When my memory is correct, didn't he start off as a midfielder when he was young? Wasn't he a midfielder at the?
He's always been a mid forward.
I don't think. I think just to really get him into the game, I'd give him burst through the middle, because I think he's capable of doing that.
It's not a revelation that you're saying. We've been saying that for 3 years, Macca.
Yeah, because he's currently capable of hunting a ball. So, I'd like to give him a burst through there. Same with Taylor as well.
Back into 23, Luke Pedlar was doing really well through the middle. He was getting midfield minutes, and he was getting really good clearance numbers. And then Matt Crouch came back, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, well, I've got no criticism of Pedlar, because in that position he plays, it's bloody hard to be outstanding. Yeah, very hard, because you bypass for everything, really. You just got to hope that some crumbs come your way. And as I said, just get him into the game, and just to get him feeling on top of the world, definitely give him a run through the middle.
Large fella.
Well, Yeah, no, I'm not against it. It's a tough one because we all see that he's got talent. It's just he's also quite error prone and such. But obviously the more
Error
we'd
prone?
like to think
What
that
the hell are you talking about?
Pedler,
Error prone?
yeah, he every so often he would just do some strange things. He'll
Give me
fumble the
strength.
ball. He'll handball to the opposition. He'll kick to the like. He is a sort of an enigma and a frenetic sort of player. But there are weapons there that we don't really have a lot of in the team. And when you're playing the role he does, isn't able to get involved enough to show those weapons. He's such a sort of a highlights package at the moment. I'm not against him being the team boss. I'm actually quite a big fan, but we're not getting the most out of him right now. And maybe he's not getting the most out of himself as well. It's two to tango here, but I think that.
So how does he get himself more involved in the game? Does he grow 4 inches and become a marking target when we kick the ball long down the line? Or does he continue to run into the centre corridor, which we ignore? Or this is how I'm struggling to work out how he actually gets involved in the game, because I can't see how in the current structure he can have any impact whatsoever.
Well, I don't understand why we're so reluctant to give him some CBAs, but if you ask was it Campo who said that we actually had too many rolling through there? I think it was Campo.
Who would listen to what bloody Camporelli's got to say?
He says I think he basically said you only want 4 players to play midfield and just have one rotating out each time.
Great.
But I don't think we have that sort of setup. We have guys who are actually quite natural on ballers, but we don't give them time in there. And those are the 2 you mentioned. For his own confidence, I think so. I mean, he's just a goal a game of player at the moment. He's better than that. 7 touches and a goal probably is what he's going at this year. I think at this stage of his career, he's got to be better than that. We've got to allow him to be better than that. And trust him a bit more there. Just give him a few. See what happens. Zach Bailey gets.
We've already seen what
each.
happens. This is what frustrates me about the conversation about Luke Pedler. We've already seen what happens when he gets put in the middle. Do we have short memories? 2023.
I'm all for it.
2023. In the second half of the season, before Crouch came back, Pedler was playing midfield minutes and he was getting good numbers. We know what he can. We know what he, and that was 3 years ago. He's had 3 more years of development. He's far fitter than he was back then. But Luke Pedler will go. He will be trade bait. He'll go to another club. Because there's no way that kid wants to play that stupid role for the rest of his career. Absolutely no way.
No, you're right though, but it's really like if there's 18 on the ground and you're really playing the 18th role, you're certainly just about not in it. And I don't know about going to another club when he goes to that, but it is total underuse of him because he has got. I think he's got a load of ability. There's no doubt about that. He's got a load of ability, but he's not in a position where you can actually get a load of the ball. So I just think if you put him through the middle and just give him a couple of runs there, you don't have to play him as a midfielder all game. Just give him a couple of bursts through there. And I think the rest of his game will pick up as well.
Munja, what's stopping him from running through the middle himself? AFL football is not like Div 4 ammos, mate. You got to do what you're told. Oh shit. No, I reckon. Look, well, here's my honest view. I think Luke Pedler will be put up for trade because if we're going to persist with this type of game plan, he's not the right player to play that role. It's not his strength.
No, I have to agree with that.
He had 82 centre bounces in 2023.
Hmm.
How many do you reckon he's had this year?
None.
1.
Yeah. That's exactly. I mean, my memory is quite good on this one. His numbers in 23, because we played Rash in the midfield for the first 6 or 7 games, and Rash's numbers were great, and then he got relegated out of the midfield. And then a few games later, we started playing Pedler in there, and his numbers were really good. And then he got bloody turfed out of there as well.
You can't have players having good numbers there, buddy. No, I think
Well, not when
you
you got Matt Crouch that needs to get a run and bloody fucking Rory Laird. I mean, look, I don't want to labour the point anymore, but I'm saying that Luke Pedler and to a lesser degree Zach Taylor, because Zach Taylor I think is plays a little bit smarter. Because you're right, big man. Luke is a bit of a bull at a gate type of player, whereas Zach's probably got a higher footy IQ. Zach got 15 touches. 3 tackles, 6 marks, 3 contested and 11 uncontested, and 4 inside 50. So he was more productive than Peds. But there's certainly been games where Zach Taylor, you see him and you think, oh shit, Zach Taylor's playing, because it's a very easy position to get swallowed up in. I would think that a bloke like Peds would just think, well, fuck this, I want to go and play midfield somewhere, and there'll be teams that'll be quite happy to take him on. Tasmania would be quite happy to take him on, I would think.
I wouldn't be surprised, mate. He's certainly capable of playing a lot better than he is because of the position that he's playing, and given the right opportunity, and he showed that in 2023. He has got ability. He's got a ton of ability, and I think one thing I think that he is very good. When he plays midfield, he is good at clearances because he's not frightened to put his body in and go in hard, take the hard knocks to get the ball. I think he's a good clearance player.
He's a clearance machine, Mac. And the thing is, we got Calamarchi coming back. Now, Calamarchi is far more suited to that high half forward role, although they might play him on the wing, who knows. But, and then Zach and Luke come under more pressure then. I don't know. I don't like the whole thing. I don't like how Zach and Luke are being treated at the moment. I think both of them deserve better. And yes, someone's got to play those roles, but if you're going to have that type of a structure, you might as well play a player in there who's more suited to it. Don't you think, big man?
Well, I was talking about Zach Bailey before. Like he's predominantly half forward type, but he gets used about 10-15% of centre bounces each week, which is gets him in the game and allows him to push up into the fence, even take marks and just get a feel of the footy. Because we know they know how damaging he is forward of the ball, but it gets him into the game. And I'm not sure why we're so reluctant to do that. And the same goes with Milk, who's a bit of a different player. Like I think I'd compare Pedler more to a McCreary / DeGoey type. Guys that you probably don't want to play there more than 50% because they're that explosive run and gun type. But we just can't see it enough right now because he's not able to. Look, as I said, I think Peds needs to find ways to get more involved in the game. Taylor I think we've seen a growth of Taylor a bit in terms of his ability to hit up at the ball carrier a bit more and get his mitts on it, even though he's not playing his natural position. And I'd like to think Pedler can do that now that he's getting some continuity. But I don't think we're doing him a favour by not allowing him to play in his natural position at least some of the game. And I don't think it's not like we have a bunch of guns in there who he can't replace. There's not many superstars now. I'm not sure why we were so hesitant to give a few other guys a chance to actually place them on ball time.
Yes, so I think we've probably done that to death. Big man, we have a little segment, and God, I don't think we've ever done it 2 hours and 10 minutes in, Macca, but here we are. Here we are with an extended bloody Hall of Fame this week. We'll make it a quick one. But you've got one, Macca, I believe.
I do. It's the timekeepers in the Collingwood-Geelong game. And as we know, that the clock wasn't started properly at the start of the third term by the timekeepers for almost a minute. And when these clever boys realised that they had not started the time clock, well, they thought we'd better fix it. So instead of deducting it from the remainder of the time, they added it on. So they played something like an extra, where was it, a close for 2 to 3 minutes extra, thanks to these geniuses. So, and they've been suspended for this coming week. But, I mean, I can't believe they've got such morons that they actually did that. And that they definitely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Very good. I'm going to give a light-hearted one this week, and it's not a diss towards this particular person, really, because I think he does excellent work. But young Cal Toomey, big man.
Mm-hmm.
Young Cal Toomey, he does some excellent journalistic work. He's obviously got a lot of contacts. He's very good on the draft and trade and all that sort of stuff. He does a little show with is it Riley Beveridge?
Yep,
Gettable, that's right. And I really think Cal should just stick to the socials and stick to faceless kind of roles, because he's no good. He's no good on the telly.
He's the deadpan guy.
He's no good on the telly. He's on? Is he on the Agenda Setters too, or one of the Footy Classifieds,
he's on one of those,
or something or other?
Yeah, one of those shows.
Yeah, he is.
And he's on Footy Classified.
He's different on that though. He's different on those shows.
Well, Eddie Maguire does a very, very good job of pumping him up and feeding him in and all the rest of it. But when Cal and Riley are doing Gettable, it's almost slapstick comedy. And the reason I'm having a crack at Cal rather than Riley is because poor Riley hasn't got much else going on, but Cal's got a fair bit going on, so I figure he can probably take it. But yeah, that's
Riley. He's a good guy.
You know Riley.
I do know Riley.
Know Riley.
Yeah.
Mark that down. Discord chat. There's another little clue.
I met Cal as well, but I know Riley. He's good, mate. Yeah. Look. I think that's their shtick. You know, they're going for sort of the what's the word? I'm trying to think of it, but like, you know, a bit goofy sort of style. But like he's more serious on the free to air shows. It's just, I don't think this. Is this your flame? Really? It's pretty weak for you, isn't it, boss?
I'm just going light because we're already 2 hours and 12 minutes in. And we haven't got a lot of time. We haven't got a lot of time to spend on it, and we've gone pretty hard on Hall of Flame the last few weeks, haven't we, Macca? We've had half our Hall of Flames, and we just can't do it this week. I'm sorry.
I got into trouble because I broke the rules and used that, and I threw Nick's in. So
you can't do a Crows person. Can't do a Crows person.
Yeah, I didn't know you couldn't do a Crows person. I threw Nick's in, but and I still think it was the right thing to do.
Just a little flame for Nick's. Is it? I didn't listen to the press conference, but people were saying that he said that he wasn't happy when Rochelle tapped the ball backwards to Thilthorpe.
Yes,
for that
he said that last week.
Oh my God.
He said he wasn't happy until he saw the result. And that tells you all you need to know about Matthew Nicks, because he would have preferred the ball to go out so they could reset.
Gee, mask off, mate. He should have kept that one in board.
I would never have said, if I was him, I would never have told anybody that I thought that. He just revealed by saying that how stupid he really is.
He did. Well, yeah, it was a little off the cuff mirror into the coaching soul of our illustrious coach. All right, that'll do for Hall of Flame. That'll do for Hall of Flame. Let's leave it. We've got bigger fish to fry. Go on then. Come on then. Give it your flame.
I know I'm giving him more attention than which he wants, but Kane Corns and his stupid hats for that Friday night show he does each week. I don't know if you listen to it. He has a hat for every club, but not the Crows because he refuses to wear one. And he always wears the hat of the team that's playing us or beat us on the weekend. So he's just a flog. And also, I was curious to see today. Yesterday he's talking about like our list issues, and we do have some list issues, but he's got this weird bugbear about our key defensive depth. And I would have thought when you lose Butts, Keane's out for the first half of the year. I think that the fact we've been able to replace those guys with the Ballets, with we obviously got Nick Murray and Josh Worrell back there, who's prior to probably the last couple of weeks, Josh has been in all Australian type form. It's just a weird thing to criticise when you got a team like the Bulldogs, who he says nothing about. Is really struggling, who have Buku Karmas playing at fullback and Ryan Gardner and guys, don't get me wrong, Karmas is a good player, but he's not a key back, and Gardner's barely a VFL footballer. So, just things like that. I feel like for a guy who's clearly obsessed with us, anytime he refers to any team, it's almost always us. And he doesn't know our list really well at all. So he gets my flame, and just get a crow's hat, mate, because you look like a dickhead. You're supposed to be impartial on the AFL website. Come on.
Oh, who's ever been impartial on the bloody AFL website?
That's true. Also, I want to say he keeps saying the Wizard is his man, like Nick Watson, like he's unearthed this hidden gem.
Yeah, I know.
Firstly, Cow Toomey came up with the Wizard name, so you can't. So you're not. The Wizards not your man. The Hawks aren't your team. You're just a bandwagon. You don't talk about Port anymore because they're shit now. Anyway, I move on.
Isn't that like someone calling Zach Taylor there, man?
Hey, if Zach becomes anything like the Wizard, mate, I'm more than happy to bloody say he's my boy. But until then, mate. But this Kane, he claims things. He's a bandwagon. He claims them when they're good. If they're bad, mate, he wants nothing to do with them.
Are you Victorian, Big man?
Right.
Am I Victorian? No, I'm South Australian, but I've dabbled in Victoria, yeah.
I'm just looking at Riley Beveridge's LinkedIn. but unfortunately, his connection list isn't public, so I can't see.
Oh no, let's not go down that route hole. But I was going to say that it's amazing how Kane doesn't talk about Horn Francis and his Port boys anymore because they're not going as well. It just shows where he's just he's a theatre guy. He's a bandwagoner, and I know his job's there to annoy. His job's there to annoy me, mate. His job's been successful, so you get solid
flame, big man. You've come in and you've taken a swing and you've landed a punch, I believe.
I've got to hand it to Cons out there in the chat. He says Kane can't deal with flames. 5-minute fireman. So I think
that's right. That's very good.
Well done, mate.
Very good.
Of the night.
All right. Considering the time, let's crack into the match coming up, which is going to be a very, very interesting one, Macca. And I firmly believe that if we don't at least split our two games heading into the bye, we will be in a bit of trouble going into the back half of the season. And of course, it's North Melbourne on Saturday at a weird time slot of 12:45. And what the hell? This is looming as a very, very dangerous game, if you ask me.
Extremely dangerous game. They're playing very well. They're playing really well, North Melbourne. And there's a heap of talent in that team. And they've got a much better midfield than we've got. It's a quality midfield. If our midfield can break even with them, we'll win the game. If their midfield gets on top, we could really be struggling to win.
Now, big man, the last 3 times we've met North, we haven't scored under 113 points. 113 and 114 last year and 138 the year before. Now, I would almost bet your wage that we won't score 100 points against North this week.
It's easy to make bets when there's nothing to bet on, mate. But Yeah, look, I think that's almost certain. We were in much better form last year, and even last year, like that game at the Adelaide Oval, they brought it for about a half,
Yep.
and we worked our way through it. And then the game at Marvel at the end of the year, and we were hitting about that was just after the Rankin incident, but yeah, we weren't much good that day, and they probably should have nabbed that win. And obviously, they're playing much better football this year. I think statistically, they're one of the most restricted teams this year. And a part of that is also they're tagging the hell out of opposition with their best players, which
Yeah, they do.
It's pretty obvious that Rankin's going to get one. Dawson maybe if he's unlucky as well. So yeah, they take away your strengths and they've got some strengths themselves. Obviously their midfield's really starting to blow up now, and their forward lines come together quite nicely with some decent key position players, and like the emergence of Trembath, and I mean Paul Curtis basically plays like a key position player, and Larky's always a dangerous player because he just he's a bit like Ben King. He just manages to get shots on goal every week and he usually nails them. So and they've got a beast of a ruckman. So look, they are still vulnerable down back with their key position depth is pretty poor. Some of their little blokes like Caleb Daniel, he can be exposed, particularly in the air, obviously. But you got to get in there first, and they might not let us. Obviously, their midfield on paper is far superior to ours, but that was the case against Port Adelaide, and we still managed to do pretty well in that game. So I'm not saying it's going to be a real struggle for us, but at the same time, they're a team that's humming, even though they haven't got the wins on the board as much as the ladder would suggest. They're actually playing some of the better football of the competition, and we're definitely not. They took it up to Sydney. We struggled against Richmond. So, danger game. I mean, danger game in the sense that we're heavy favourites, but I would not have us heavy favourites. I would only have a slight favourite just because it's a home game, and North traditionally, although history does change eventually, but traditionally have been really poor at Adelaide Oval. So I'm hoping that continues for our sake. But you're right, we have to probably win one of the next two because I can't see us winning against Hawthorn. I think that's almost a write-off down in Tassie on a cold night off a 5-day break. Thanks AFL too for the 5 and then 6-day break into a 5-day break. That's great. But and then we have Geelong coming straight off the bye, which we tend to who we don't play particularly good football against, regardless of where we play them. So if we lose this, probably likely to lose the next two after that, and then suddenly we're in the negatives and heads below water, and the season will be getting away from us. So
agreed.
I'm not gonna say it's must win, Macca, but I think it's getting pretty close to must win.
Oh no, I'd call it a must win. I was going to go say it's not nearly. It is a must win because we're not travelling as smoothly as we really like us to be travelling, and we lose this one, and then as you say, we probably got to lose the next couple after that, and then it gets very, very hard. It gets very hard. So I think it's a must win. I think the Achilles heel for North is their defence. I think I'm not saying it's rotten defence, but I think it's a gettable one if your forwards play well, and at least they get some supply as well, of course. I think they're very strong in midfield. They have a couple of good players up forward, but they're not completely good up forward. They've got 2 or 3, and then they've got another couple that make up the numbers. But I think that if we win, it won't be by a big margin, and I'll be just happy to take any win, whether it be by a point or 2 points. Any win will do.
I think one of the big challenges that one bloke's going to face this time in is Lockie McAndrew up against Cherry. I think that's going to be a big, big test for him. 100%, Fiend. You're right on the money. He's been able to. He's got to get big body ramming into him all the time. Zeri played it very hard, very tough, and McAndrews, he's going for the ball all the time, and so does Zeri, but he's very physical about it as well. So it'll be his biggest test, I reckon.
Centre bouncy should be okay. I think Sherry doesn't have a great leap. McAndrew's obviously got the height advantage and stuff there, but and I really like McAndrew's follow-up work. I think his tackling has been really good. His hands on the deck. I've been really impressed by actually how he follows up after a ruck contest. And but you're right. It's those boundary throw-ins and those stoppages around the ground. He's going to have his work cut out for him because if Sherry doesn't win the hit out, he loves to grab it out of the ruck.
Yep.
And if you do, and if you one of our players gets it, he's the first to tackle you into the ground. So him and those mids, they're going to have a rough day. But look, at the end of the day, it's North Melbourne. You can't fear these sort of teams. Like, it's a home deck. You just got to get the job done. Hopefully, it's a bit like the St Kilda game where we thought we were up against it a bit, and we just got the job done. Like Macca, I'm not predicting a big win here. If we do win, just hopefully we just get the 4 points. And because I think end of the season, if we're going to play any role, which I don't think we're going to, I don't know how far we're going to go this year, but if we even want to play wild card round, this is one of those games because they're probably a team that's probably contending for a similar spot than us. I would say around that 7 to 10 mark. I think they're right in that hunt as well.
Just a quick one because we haven't really gone through any AFL news or whatever. Obviously, Vossi got the boot this week, mutual or what have you, and Carlton have obviously made a call. I believe that their list manager also left, which I think is probably the bigger call because I think list management is their real problem.
Chris Davies is replacing him.
Thought Chris Davies was already on the short term.
Yeah.
Chris Davies taking on the Paul Noble, the Crows role of doing everything.
And they don't even have a recruiting manager at the moment still. It's crazy.
Disarray. I guess my question is if we don't win one of the next two and we head into the bye, and that obviously is going to make it difficult, given the little bit of rumblings that we talked about earlier, a little bit of rumblings in the media, is Matthew Nicks all of a sudden in the gun, considering that you'll probably never get another year where so many bona fide coaches are available?
Oh, look, I would. If somebody said that they're thinking about replacing Nixon, going to the market and getting someone else, and I think there are, as you say, there's a couple of good quality blokes out there. The ex-coach at Sydney is one, for example. I certainly wouldn't be upset one little bit to say goodbye to Nix.
I'm not saying you wouldn't be upset. What I'm asking is, will he be under pressure?
I don't think the club will do it. They might talk to him behind closed doors and tell him to lift the game, but they won't do it. There's been opportunities to do it before. They won't do it. They should, but they won't.
What do you reckon, big man?
I'd be more inclined to think it's a real chance if we bloody didn't re-sign him for next year. Now I know that doesn't mean everything. I know you can just pay that out, but it does indicate that they're, at the time anyway, they were still relatively comfortable with Nix's tenure. And yes, I know things change. I'm not sure. I mean, I think Brad Scott's more likely to get at the arse before old mate Nixie does.
Well, but this is the point I'm making.
It is embarrassing.
I guess,
if we didn't make the wild card round, like that's top 10. If we're not even making top 10, then and it's looking like that at some stage this year, that's pretty embarrassing for a team that realistically, with the way in which we built our list, we should be close to contending or contending. So, I mean, it does have to raise eyebrows.
Well, see, your point about Brad Scott is the issue, and this is why I'm saying that you'll have Carlton looking for a coach, you'll have potentially Essendon looking for a coach, you'll have Tassie looking for a coach. There's, I could name, 5 coaches at the moment that are around that are gettable, but that stock wears a bit thin pretty quickly, and if we wait too long, we might be left holding the can, and that's why I'm wondering whether if it's looking like after the break, if we're not travelling well and struggling to make the wild card, and the wild card, like, let's be perfectly honest, the wild card is 9 and 10. If we go from minor premiers to not winning a final and then going to 9 or 10, irrespective of the wildcard bullshit. That like slip half the table in one season, then surely we've got to be looking elsewhere.
Well, the D's.
That's after.
Sorry, Mac. I was just going to say the Demons made a prelim in 2018, got smacked, and then finished the second last, I think, the following year. So, and Goodwin survived that. So it does happen, and sometimes these things aren't just always okay.
He had a premiership.
No, in 2019, I mean.
Oh, okay.
They won the flag in 21. So a couple of years later, he made they got going again.
I don't think Goody had 7 years though, had he?
No, I think he came in at 2016. I think
it had
2017 even maybe. Yeah,
had 2 years.
But he was there for a bit under Ruse. But I see your point.
What do you think, though?
What do I think? I'm curious because you say, we don't want to run out of options if they're all being taken by the other clubs. Do you? But I'm thinking like Carlton have basically suggested they're going for a non-experienced coach, and Essendon may do the same. Do you want us to go for an experienced coach? Like when you say the options available, are you talking like a Longmire type, a type that obviously has been there, done that?
We absolutely need an experienced coach.
Longmire. I am talking Longmire directly, actually.
Well, I'm just saying that if Carlton and Essendon both go down the more useful approach, first time coaches, then we won't be compromised anyway. We'll have the same list to choose from. If we wait still a bit.
I think that'd be fucking stupid not to take experienced coaches, Carlton and Essendon. Particularly Essendon, they've had Rutten previously, and like Brad Scott's a placeholder in my opinion. It'd be crazy not to get an established coach.
That's the talk.
I agree.
Things can change if a certain person pops up. Then, I mean, Carlton have sacked so many coaches the last 15 years that it's hard to keep track. But they opted for an experienced one with Voss. Maybe they want to go the opposite directions with the next one. But look, I will say this: I think Longmire would be a brilliant get. He's the one. I think he's the one. I reckon.
He's the one I would like.
For mine, it's Buckley.
Really? I think Buckley's in that sort of Voss mode where he sounds great, but the evidence isn't there to suggest that he's actually a good coach.
I'm in the same camp as you.
The evidence isn't all that much better on Longmire, to be honest with you. He's had a lot of failures.
But he has been. He's made GF though. I mean, he's got them to the final day, and
with a team stacked with academy players and Kohler and all that sort of stuff. He's got one flag to show for it.
Well, I don't think Nix will ever have a flag to show for it.
No, well, I'm not comparing him to Nix, obviously, am I? But I'm saying that I'm not as sold on Longmire as you two are. I think Buckley's the perfect coach for us.
Why do you say that, mate?
Well, because I think he went through a big club situation at Collingwood. He obviously went in very arrogant and pig-headed, but had the ability to change his ways over the last couple of years before he got moved on. I feel like I loved everything that came out of his mouth while he was commentating. I feel like he's very, very good at understanding the game. And what gets him over the line for me is that he spent 12 months under Chris Scott at Geelong. And if ever you wanted to get up to speed with what a good club does and how a good coach operates, 12 months under Chris Scott just a beautiful little lead into another coaching job. And he loves our list. He's always talked up our list, always.
Well, I feel like what some of the stuff you said could have described Voss too, Ross.
Well,
sort of that second chance saloon where you think he learns a lot, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not having to go completely at Voss. I think there's some other issues at Carlton as well, but
I don't. I think Voss got fed a pile of bloody bollocks at Carlton.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree
Where
with that.
coaches go to die.
I think you're right, Fee. Taking the coaching job at Carlton and then losing your best forward, losing your ruckman, losing another reliable defender, and nothing of any value coming in. I mean, he was always doomed this year. He was doomed, and I think anybody that coaches Carlton is doomed anyhow. But
that doesn't explain last year though. And we're talking about Voss. I mean, you say he was given a shit to work with, but he did have like 4 or 5 bloody pick ones almost on the list. A lot of them actually ended up making it, and to like Walsh was a pretty handy player, Wiedering a star, Curnow Coleman medalist, even Mackay Coleman medalist.
He made 2 prelim finals.
Yeah, I'm saying the evidence, like he had enough to work with, I think, in general, but there are other factors as well. But I think you'd agree that he still didn't get the most out of the talent on that list. And then obviously it fell away. Curnow left this year. Cripps is getting older now.
Well, I think
so. Basically, they need to rebuild.
You make 2 prelim finals, and they were leading Brisbane Lions at halftime in one of them. I think you pretty much have done your job. And I think that list was just set up to fall off a cliff. And I think that's exactly what happened. In the back half of last year, they had in 24, they had a huge injury list after starting well. And then last year, the list just fell in a heap.
I just worry that Buckley is like, he talks great. Don't get me wrong, media performer, excellent. But in terms of actually being a coach, when there's a lot more to it, and it's not just about saying the right things, but also doing the right things, and also communicating with your players really well, which I think was definitely an issue for him at Collingwood. Buckley's one of those guys.
Initially it was.
Yeah, but this Buckley's made, he's an elite guy. He's elite everything in his career, and he doesn't have that sort of, or hasn't had that sort of empathy that coaches get.
Initially, that's not how it ended up at Collingwood. That was certainly what was said about him over the first season or 2 of his tenure. But not the last couple of years.
Isn't he being built for Tassie anyway? Isn't that sort of the idea?
No, he was a favourite, but the woman with a few wrinkles has said that he's no longer the favourite for it, and that somebody else, which she can't name, is ahead of him.
Well, she put Hinkley up the other night, and Kenny knocked it on the head within about 30 seconds. But then again, I wouldn't trust Kenny either.
No, but the point she was making is that she doesn't think that Buckley will get the job.
I mean, if you're Nathan Buckley, what would you rather do? Go and coach at Tassie and get nothing for it, and possibly end up like Guy McKenna and never get another job again, or go to a maturing list that is close to or in the window, and maybe jag a flag or 2?
Oh, you'd obviously go to a club that was on the rise. That's what every coach would like to do. That.
There you go.
I think we're a good fit for Buckley. I just don't know if Buckley's a good fit for us. I'm open-minded, but at the same time, I just something about I don't know. I just don't think there's enough evidence there. I think we need to find someone that we know has got the goods. And I think
who's got the goods?
Longmire's absolutely the player for that.
What I like about
I wouldn't say absolutely is like, if you're going to be definitive about Bucks, I'll be definitive about Longmire. It's not definitive at all. He had an amazing squad gifted to him by his predecessor, and he's had the benefit of academies and Kohler and all that to keep that squad topped up.
But he was
still think he coaches well.
Yeah, I was going to say he was basically. I know success is basically determined by premierships, and they lost a lot of grand finals, but Sydney competed in grand finals throughout his entire tenure. So he comes in, he's like second year or whatever it was. He wins a flag. 2014, I think it was, made a grand final. So 2 years later after that, 2016, they should have won that year if not for umpires against the Bulldogs. Then he had another 2 grand final appearances like 6 years later with the Geelong and Brisbane grand finals.
Mhm.
So and I know you're saying he got Isaac Heaney and Blakey's father. So, no, it wasn't. No, he was academy too. And
Kohler.
Errol Gordon and Callum Mills. I understand that, but at the same time, that's an accumulation of high-end talent, which you'd like to think is the same case for us. Yes, we haven't had it easier,
it
but
can't possibly be the same case as us.
no,
We
but
don't
no,
have
not when you're there.
TPP benefits. We don't get academy benefits at all.
No, but if he's inheriting a list, that has drafted high-end talent, regardless of where it's come from.
Not to the
Maybe
same.
not to the
We
same-
don't have this.
not to the-
We don't have the same number of high-end, like single-digit picks that Sydney had. God, it's not even close.
Not that far off.
It's not even close. Come on.
Not that far off.
What?
I know Buddy was there too, but
Thilthorpe and Rochelle and Draper.
and Draper and Curtin.
Well, Draper hasn't played. Draper's hardly played.
11.
Yeah, so not a single digit.
Rankin was a pick 3.
Not with us, he wasn't.
No, but he's in our team. Chase Jones, gun.
Chase.
And I love the comment in
Christ. Anyway, we could go around for hours. We got differing opinions on this. My question really is more about whether Nicks will come under pressure this season, given because it's not only Longmire, there's Simpson and there's a couple others, So the reality is that there are coaches available that might not be available if we hang too long with Nicks. That's my point.
Yeah. Well, that is the principle that you're talking about. And I'm 100% with you. If you said, I think we should get rid of Nicks and get one of these coaches that are out there, the debate, where we're debating which one, the club will decide which one. But I would love to move Nicks on and get a new coach, one that it's really been experienced and has shown at times that they are capable of making excellent moves and improving players. A very good example of that is Dawson. He up at Sydney. They grew him from a half-back flanker to a centre half-back to playing on the ball. Anybody but Nick. I just think we're not going to ever win a flag with this guy. I'm convinced of it.
I will say,
I'm in the same boat. What do you say, big man? Do you think we can win a flag under Matthew Nicks?
the Messiah. No, well, I thought that this time last year I thought we were a sneaky chance, and things have changed since then. I think there's too many reasons not to think so that have me convinced that we won't.
So that's a triple negative. So just answer me directly.
I was going to say that was terrible English. That was terrible. But no, I have too many reservations. And I don't want to pot the guy because like
yes or no. Yes or no.
No.
There you
no.
go.
And I think it would be a good opportunity with the new, the new, what do you call it, Thurbin headquarters. We even got a new list manager, maybe a new coach to freshen things up. I think I don't want to be at a place. I don't want this club to become stale. And I think it has that area of it.
That's
been
my
there a
worry.
while now. 7 years. It's a long time for one voice.
That's my worry.
Yeah,
if you talk about the corporate world, 3 or 4 years for a CEO is usually enough. And then you need a new direction, new voice, and I feel like 7 years. Particularly 7 years without any success. I think it's like things would have to. And look, we don't know. They might just be battling at the moment with a few injuries and, as you say, the internal stuff, and we might come out after the bye and tear it up with a different game plan and all the rest of it, and make the 8 and win a final and. Life will go on, but certainly as it stands at the moment, I don't think there is.
They certainly have to change the game plan. This game plan could not win a grand final. It couldn't win a final.
Yeah, and look, I won't say, Nicks hasn't won a final in 7 years and stuff, because for the first 3 years of his tenure, he was picking up the scraps of a list that we basically blew up and started from scratch almost. So
No, the
he was always
list didn't blow up straight away. He had a reasonable list in 2019.
Gee, we got rid of a lot of players at the end of 2019, boss.
At the end of 2019, absolutely, but not the first season.
No, but he coached in 20. He started in 2020. When he COVID year.
No, sorry. Our list was still largely intact in 2020 when he took over.
To an extent, but we had got rid of a lot of players at that point. Betts, Jenkins, Greenwood. There's a few others too that we got rid of. And
anyway, I'm not going to argue the point. I agree with you.
No, I'm saying I give him a mulligan for those first few years, but that's now probably 3 years we've been. I think we've all 3 or 4 years now. We should have been in contention or close enough. I think 23 maybe we came in slightly early.
Yeah.
24 was probably when we should have started hitting our straps. We were terrible.
Yeah.
25 we look good. 26 we don't look so good. So it's a long time for that. As I said, one voice to be heard, and it could be time for a freshen up. And look, he's done his job. He's re-grabbed this club, but maybe we just need to move on.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Well, look, that's 2 hours, 45 minutes. I reckon that's the longest Tuesday Night Live we've ever had. So I blame you, big man. Thanks to everyone who's stuck with us over the course of the show. Obviously, we had to make it a bit longer because we didn't do the wrap on Sunday night. So for those listening on demand later on, you can just flick through to the bits that you're interested in. And we will be back on Sunday evening, Big Man, myself, and Brownie, to wrap up the North game. Are you going, Big Man?
I will be going.
Are you in the members or are you in the cheap seats?
Oh no, we're not doxing your Big Man here, mate.
No, I'm not. No, I was just gonna say I'll catch up for a beer with you.
Yeah, we'll do that at some stage. I'm going to be really nervous. I'm going to be nervous about this game. This game's got and I think the crowd will be too. I'm sensing that it's one of those games we know we need to win, but we don't trust ourselves to win.
And it's 12:45. I mean, it's one of those where the crowd won't be fired up early, and if we get behind, it'll be really quiet. And it's got that sniff about it, hasn't it?
No, you're right, mate.
So, what's your tip?
Oh shit, this is tough. It probably depends a bit on who we bring in. I'm going to tip us, but I'm going to tip us by 8 points.
Okay.
Just because it's at home.
Well, I'm going to Adelaide, but I'm only going to go for us by about 3 points in an absolute thriller.
Right. I'm going North by 22 points.
Oh. You thought I was the negative one, mate, when it came to tipping.
I tipped us by 100 last week. How do you reckon I was looking at half time?
We didn't even kick 100 points, mate.
No. Oh, shit. All right. Well, look, thanks, Big Man, for joining us tonight. Thanks, as always, Macca. Thanks, everyone, for sticking with us on Discord and in YouTube. We will leave it there and see you on Saturday night. Until then, stay safe, be good, and have fun. Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Good night, all.